Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. People are sailing and get lion fruit at the beginning. Chapter 71. Moria was punched through the wall from the room, and Luffy was smashed to the ground outside the castle, then vomited blood and knelt on the ground. He felt like this punch was about to knock him to the sky. The power of Sha Luo's punch is so terrifying. This only gave him a chance to breathe when Sha Luo withdrew his strength, otherwise Sha Luo would be as terrifying as Aunt Kaido in Four Emperors. If he really hit Moria's defenseless stomach with all his strength, I'm afraid this punch could really knock him into the sky. Hockey. That brat actually mastered hockey. Moria raised her head and stared in horror at the hole she had smashed into above. Smoke was filling the place and gravel was falling. But he could clearly see Sha Luo's somewhat disdainful smile in the smoke. Little devil. Gecko Moria grabbed a handful angrily, crushing the dirt and gravel into pieces. He admitted that he had indeed underestimated the kid in front of him, and he had blindly exposed his weaknesses in front of him without any intelligence. 1. The next second, Sha Luo jumped down from the tall building. Good chance. Moria looked at the unsuspecting Sha Luo in the air and used all her strength to activate the shadow fruit. Shadow horn gun. Countless shadow bats and shadow mages turned into a huge spear and thrust towards Sha Luo. The speed is good. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to dodge in the air, but Sha Luo has observation hockey's perception and can easily dodge the thrust. But he didn't expect the shadow horn gun to turn around and come back, continuing to rush towards Sha Luo's back. This is a good move. Sha Luo's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that the shadow horn gun could be used so well by him. Not only could it turn corners, it was also very fast. Sha Luo used the lion fruit to stop in the air, and then kicked the shadow horn gun with an armament hockey kick. Clang! After only a moment of stalemate, the shadow horn gun was kicked away by Sha Luo. However, the shadow did not dissipate, but turned into countless little bats flying in the air. Within. Who the hell are you? I've never heard of a guy like you existing in the paradise. Gecko Moria looked at Sha Luo floating in the air with fear. Although anger rushed into his head, he did not rush forward rashly again. My name is Sha Luo. Gecko Moria, your strength and fruits have been developed quite well. Do you want to be my subordinate? Floating in the air, Sha Luo's aura was fully activated, and she extended an invitation to Moria. Sha Luo. This name seems familiar. After carefully observing Sha Luo's face, and the way he floats in the air, Moria reminds Moria of a person. You guy. Golden Lion 2, Sha Luo. Moria's pupils suddenly opened wide, and the figure in front of her was constantly combined with the face in the newspaper that she saw in her memory, and then she gritted her teeth and said, "It is rumored that you have disappeared for 2 years. Most people guessed that you were 2 years ago. I didn't expect that you would appear here. What is your purpose? You defeated Crocodile before, and now it's me. Do you want to challenge the authority of the world government and plan to defeat all Shichibukai?" Moria roared with a ferocious expression. In his opinion, Sha Luo's invitation to him was an insult to him. 1. He did not regard this as a sincere invitation from Sha Luo. Well, challenging the world government is also one of my goals, right? Those guys are so high up in this world, and I have long been unhappy with them. For this I need some powerful subordinates, and you are one of my goals. Why, do you want to join my army? Sha Luo smiled frankly and was outspoken about wanting to bring down the world government. This guy is serious, he really wants to defeat the world government. Gecko Moria thought to himself with a cold sweat breaking out. Unexpectedly, Sha Luo really tried to change the world structure and challenge the world government that has ruled the world for 800 years. Hehehehe. Who do you think Lousy is? I am the 7 warlords of the sea. Gecko Moria, and a guy who only debuted for 2.5 years wants me to be your subordinate. There are many guys in the new world who are better than you. Quote. But that's fine, since I'm here, I must take down your shadow so that I can defeat that idiot Kaido. Suddenly, Moria laughed wildly and his eyes sparkled. In his mind, he was already thinking about getting Sha Luo's shadow and then growing his zombie army to challenge Kaido again. Oh, it looks like you are planning to fight me to the end. You will die. Sha Luo's eyes showed a cold light. It's not like children quarreling. To a real pirate, death is not a threat. A man will leave everything behind in order to pursue his dream. Gecko Moria changed his previous attitude, and the strong will immersed in his body burst out at this time. The gathering place of shadows. Gecko Moria shouted the name of the move, and then countless zombies on the island poured out black shadows from their mouths, and then all floated towards Moria's mouth. Moria devoured these shadows, 100, 200, 300. Sha Luo did not stop him, but silently watched him devouring the shadows. You can regain your strong will. It seems that you are not willing to let your will sink like this. Come and show me the strength of the great pirate. Sha Luo grinned. 1,000. With the last shadow swallowed, Moria's size has grown to the size of a small giant. Hey, kid, let me show you my true strength. Moria clenched her huge palm into a fist and blasted towards Sha Luo with all her strength. Sha Luo did not dodge this menacing punch, and directly punched it with his right fist clenched, but he did not add any hockey. Within, boom boom boom, a powerful flow of air burst out from the center of their fist fight. This was a pure competition of strength. Li, who gathered the shadows of 10,000 people, and the descendant who had completed the evolution of Zero Force. Very good power, but our strength is too disparate. You can't defeat me with external power alone. With Sha Luo's last roar, Moria felt that the thin human in front of her burst out with power comparable to that of the giants, and she immediately knocked him back a few steps. Shave. Sha Luo teleported in front of Gecko Moria again and punched at the previous location. Shadow Warrior. A drop of cold sweat broke out on Moria's forehead, and she used the displacement skill without hesitation. He has already seen the power of Sha Luo's fist, and he doesn't want to eat it again now. Boom. The airflow gathered by the fist formed a cannonball like an air cannon, directly blasting Moria's stomach to pieces. What was scattered on the ground was not flesh and blood, but pools of black shadows. Moria's lower body has completed the exchange with the shadow. After the whole body has been exchanged, the big hole blasted in the Shadow Mage's belly has returned to the same state as the third day of the new year. Flying bats. The Shadow Mage dissipated into a round shadow, and then turned into a bat and flew towards Sha Luo. Facing the overwhelming bat attack, Sha Luo just waved his hand. The strong wind swept these bats, and they were blown around before they reached Sha Luo. You kid, try this trick again. Shadow attack. The scattered bats turned into shadows and moved quickly on the ground, then turned into several thick arms and grabbed Sha Luo's shadow to prevent him from moving. And a sharp shadow claw rushed straight into Sha Luo's stomach and was about to penetrate him. What about a move I haven't seen before? Is it a move developed after using the shadow gathering place? It can actually restrain the opponent through the shadow. Sha Luo looked at the shadow hand grabbing her shadow with some surprise. It's useless, I said before, there is too great a disparity in strength between us. Sha Ling told a fact that made Moria despair in a plain tone. The shadow claw hit his body, but it did not penetrate. Instead, the shadow claw was smashed to pieces. Then Sha Luo broke free from the shackles of the shadow with great force and floated in the sky. Above, even if you reawaken the will of a strong person in the past, you have long lost your peak strength due to neglect of training. Look at your ship, it's full of dilapidated city walls. This huge mobile sailboat accompanied you on your expeditions. It must have been overcrowded back then, but now there are only 3 men left besides zombies. Have all your dreams been shattered in the new world? With the help of 3 subordinates and those foreign powers, I'm afraid even you yourself can't believe that you can return to your peak. Sha Luo glanced around the entire thriller bark and said plainly. Companies can only be lost if they are alive. Only zombies die at the beginning. Even if they are defeated, they can be continuously resurrected and used. Do you think you alone can fight against the monsters in the new world? Or can those few women help you fend off other enemies? Sha Luo's words brought back painful memories of Moria. He used to be so high-spirited. He once occupied Onigashima in the second half of the Grand Line and planned to invade Wano-kuni. Wano-kuni commanded the entire Wano-kuni to conquer the second half of the Grand Line, but in the end he clashed with Kaido, who was also targeting Wano-kuni. Moria then challenged Kaido. Afterwards, the two had a big battle behind the bell in Wano-kuni. Moria, who was called a demon by the people of Wano-kuni, was defeated by Kaido, who was regarded as the king of Ming. Onigashima also occupied by Kaido. So far, Gecko Moria has only obtained a Ryoma body and a handful of autumn water from Wano-kuni. His huge group of subordinates were tricked by Kaido to instigate rebellion, which also caused Moria to suffer an irreversible defeat. In the end, his remaining subordinates fought tooth and nail to find a way out for him. To this day, Kaido's subordinates still have some crew members with numbers printed on them, while Moria only has zombies with numbers printed on them. How ironic this is. After experiencing this kind of despair, his view of his companions has been distorted. After this failure, he gave up on cultivation due to constant self-denial and placed all his hopes on the growing zombie army. Since you are afraid that your companions will die, then become stronger. Not only will you become stronger, but your companions will also become stronger with you. As long as they all become strong, they will neither fail nor die. Instead of playing house here and dreaming of letting zombies help you become the Pirate King, you might as well join my command and conquer the new world again. Sha Luo tore his last fig leaf. Yes, in Sha Luo's eyes, Moria harvesting the shadows of these weaklings in Thriller Bark is like playing house. If such a powerful fruit continues to be conquered in the new world, maybe it will be real. Can regain its glory again. Shut up, it's just a new pirate group with little experience. What can you understand if you haven't seen the second half of the Grand Line? I'm going to cut you into pieces. Just collect the shadows and stuff later. Sha Luo's playing tricks ignited his anger. At this time, Moria seemed to have lost his mind, and then he took out a pair of big scissors from nowhere. The scissors split into two and turned into two machetes. The machetes were sharpened against each other several times, making the sound of gold and iron. I'm really stubborn. In this case, I can only let you see my true strength. Moria's irrational appearance made Sha Luo's eyes gradually become cold. It seemed that he had no talent for talking. If you don't convince him, then you can only beat him. Go to hell, you kid. Moria let out a sharp roar, and her huge body rushed forward, crushing the floor tiles with every step. Boom! The powerful conqueror's haki gushes out. Sha Luo pulled out his two swords at this time, and the strong armament haki and conqueror's haki covered the sword body. Black lightning crackles, that is the high-level conqueror's haki entanglement. The physical lightning produced. Moria, who was facing him, felt this somewhat familiar aura, and her running steps couldn't help but slow down a bit, and her pupils widened. This is Conqueror's haki, the exact same Conqueror's haki as that Kaido. Is this kid also a pirate who has the qualifications to become a king? Then Moria shook his head again. So what if he has the qualifications of a king? After all, he is just a pirate who has not been at sea for a long time. When faced with the impact of the big pirates in the new world, he will end up like him. His companions will die and they will run away in confusion. The new world can no longer accommodate any more pirates. Now a situation of survival of the fittest has formed, and no one can break this deadlock. /wave .purgatory. Sha Luo didn't give Moria time to think about so many things. He swung out his swords and flew towards Gecko Moria with two huge black slashes. Moria felt that there was only endless darkness in front of her eyes, and Sha Luo's two sword auras were like beasts trying to devour her. Who do you think Lousy is? Lousy is Gecko Moria. After Moria roared, he put two machetes in front of him and blocked the sword. Lo, tear it up for me. Molia roared to increase his morale, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not shake the sword energy at all. On the contrary, he was pushed back by the sword energy. There were already two deep ditches under his feet, which proved that he had not flinched. Clang! Two machetes broke. The sword energy struck him firmly. Moria vomited blood and rolled her eyes, and her body slowly fell backwards. There was an X-shaped scar on his chest. After all, the disparity in strength was too great, and he was unable to block the blow. If you could be like today 20 years ago, you wouldn't be a loser. Sha Luo sheathed the knife and said calmly. It was not Kaido who defeated Moria, but himself. After experiencing that failure, he failed to meet his own Jinbei like Luffy, and eventually became a real loser. Lord Moria. Perona had woken up at some point and was now running out of the castle. With some tears shining in the corners of Perona's eyes, she looked at the captain who was like a father, who was already lying in a pool of blood. She didn't understand how Lord Moria, who thought she was invincible, could fail. Ah, Lord Moria, are you still alive? Perona finally couldn't hold back the tears in her eyes and cried, running towards the direction where Moria fell. When the distance was only 10 meters away, Shaluo suddenly appeared and hugged Perona, carrying her on his shoulders. "Ooh, you bad guy, let me go. Lord Moria, help me." Perona patted Shaluo's back with tears streaming down her face. It looked really touching. "Stop struggling. Now Moria has been defeated by me. You are also my trophy. You will be my crew member from now on." Shaluo reached out and patted Perona's little butt. The girl had been struggling behind him, but it was really something. Shaluo felt it. "Ooh, you pervert, Master Moria, please help me." Shaluo's move made Perona struggle even more violently, constantly calling Moria's name. As if Perona's call had an effect, Moria's fingers moved, and then she slowly opened her eyes. "Oh, are you still alive? It seems that even if your strength has declined, your life is still strong." Shaluo glanced at Moria in surprise. He also felt that Moria still had a little life breath before. He thought it would dissipate soon, but he didn't expect that the other party would survive. "Great, Lord Moria is still alive." Perona stopped struggling, covered her mouth and shed tears of emotion. After waking up again, Moria calmed down and lay on the ground without saying a word. Am I a real loser? At this moment, Moria deeply reflects on what she has done over the years, collecting shadows, forming a zombie army, and then returning to the new world to challenge Kaido. But, is it really possible for my own zombie army to defeat Kaido? As Sha Luo said, maybe even I don't believe it. Keep numbing yourself, playing games like, playing house, or in. It's really time for him to give up on his dream of becoming the Pirate King. Perona, Moria said calmly. "Huh, Lord Moria." Perona looked at him with tearful eyes. "I am just a loser in the second half of the Great Route. There is no need to shed tears for a loser like me. Since this man values you so much, then follow him." Moria also looked away at this time. Although she didn't understand why Sha Luo valued Perona, she had no reason to restrain her daughter. "Instead of following this loser like you, it is better to follow this man to see the vast world." "Master Moria, what are you talking about? I will not leave you." Perona said in a panic with a hint of anxiety. Moria's words seemed to abandon her. She has grown up in Thriller Bark since she was a child. She has a deep affection for this place and of course she doesn't want to leave it. Enough. Moria was breathing heavily and his mouth was bleeding. The roar just now seemed to have consumed a lot of his energy. "Perona, I will take you away. After that, I will climb to the top of the world, overthrow the world government and become the king of the world. Just watch it. Whenever you step out of the shadow of a loser, if you still want to join me, then come to New World to find me, and join forces with me to overthrow this world." After saying that, Sha Luo hugged Perona and left without looking back. And Perona stopped struggling because of Moria's scolding just now, and followed Sha Luo away obediently, but the parting eyes still showed reluctance. And Moria's eyes widened after Sha Luo said the last sentence. Even at this point, this man did not kill him, and invited himself again. This made Moria feel that she was so valued by others for the first time. "You Sha Luo kid, one day I will go to the New World again, and then defeat you and recapture Perona. Just wait for me." Sha Luo listened to Moria's sharp roar behind her and showed a strange expression. "Are all Shichibukai Tsuneres? Crocodile is the same, and so is Moria. They will make such Tsunere-like remarks in the reboot. However, my strength will not stay where it is. I will become stronger and stronger. When I see them next time, I will defeat them again. By then, these Shichibukai will probably be truly convinced." Sha Luo hugged Perona and walked back to the girls. "Has everything been taken care of? What happened to this little girl?" Seeing Sha Luo coming back, Reiju looked at Perona who looked very disappointed and asked in confusion. "Well, Moria abandoned her, so she is my trophy." The lower body responded casually. "Master Moria has not abandoned me. He will come to pick me up one day." Perona refuted Sha Luo's words, and now she still firmly believes that Moria will come back to pick her up in the future. "Well, before that, you were already my crew member." Sha Luo shrugged, got on his ship and wanted to get off. "Impossible. Next time Moria comes, he will also pull Moria on board the ship and make him the captain of his division. HMPH. Perona shook her head and puffed her face. Two twin ponytails also slapped Xia Ling's face. Is this the double ponytail face flick? This is the first time he has experienced it, but he wants to experience the feeling of pulling the double ponytail from behind. No matter how big or small, I haven't seen you, Lord Moria has already given you to me. You will call me Captain Sha Luo from now on. You don't want me to repair your Lord Moria later, right? Looking at Perona's arrogant look, Sha Luo showed a playful expression. Then make a small threat. Woo, Captain Sha Luo. Sha Luo's strategy was successful. Perona succumbed to his silver power and shouted reluctantly. Be good. Sha Luo smiled and touched her head. The latter lowered his head with a slightly red expression. This feeling was a bit like a real father. Lord Moria had never done such an action to her. Sha Luo doesn't know what's going on in Perona's head, otherwise she would be very happy to be Perona's father. Sha Luo and the women returned to the deck of the giant battleship. This area shrouded in thick fog makes it difficult to tell time. Although it only took a few hours from landing on the island to solving Moria, it took a lot of time to find the thriller bark, and it was already approaching evening. I feel a little hungry. I'll leave it to you Nokigao for dinner. It's just a normal portion. You don't have to prepare as much as before. Sha Luo touched his belly and felt a little hungry, but with his physique, he still has enough energy even if he doesn't eat for a month. It's just psychology at work. Yes, Captain Sha Luo. Nuo Qigao said with a smile, and then returned to the kitchen. The women returned to the cabin and began to work on their own. What? The food doesn't suit your taste. Come and try this. Looking at the somewhat depressed Perona beside her, she thought she still couldn't get over Moria's abandonment, so she stuffed a chocolate bagel into her mouth. Woo! Perona, who was suddenly stuffed with food, struggled a bit in confusion, but her eyes lit up when she tasted the food. Tasty. Log in to earn coins. Then he slowly bit into the bagel and ate it happily. If it's delicious, eat more. Michita is the pastry master on our ship and is best at making chocolate delicacies, as well as lemon tea drinks. Nami on the other side smiled and poured her a cup of lemon tea. Speaking of the best chef on the ship, it must be Nazi Cow, but Michita is not inferior to Nazi Cow in the study of chocolate delicacies. After all, in the original book, she also opened a chocolate shop in the desert in the final ending, which shows Mikita's love for chocolate. Well, it's not as good as you said, Nami-chan. Michita happily covered her smile after being praised in public. Thank you. Suddenly Perona whispered thank you to Sha Luo. If it weren't for Sha Luo's sharp hearing, he really wouldn't be able to hear what she said, but he still raised the corners of his mouth and said playfully, Did you say something just now? I didn't say anything. Looking at Sha Luo's playful face, Perona puffed up her mouth and said. Then he ate the bagel with big mouthfuls, as if he had some deep hatred for the bagel. After his anger subsided, he started to blush again. The caring expression of the food she just gave her made most of her fear of Sha Luo dissipate. Moria was forcefully defeated by Sha Luo and was even asked to board the ship by herself. She still felt a little uneasy leaving her home. Especially the misfit who just got on the ship, he created a slight barrier for her. However, Nami took the initiative to serve Perona tea, which moved her very much. The other women on the boat were also very gentle, and Perona felt that she was gradually integrating into the team. Seeing that Perona was beginning to accept the fleet, Nami winked at Sha Luo, as if to say, I helped you get it done, and I want to give you a good reward tonight. And Sha Luo silently gave him a thumbs up. After the meal, Sha Luo summoned the Lu Chi trio. The three guys just blushed when they saw Perona. After hastily eating, they went back to practice. It seems that they still haven't gotten out of the shadow of Perona's negative ghost. Lu Chi, I have a task that the three of you need to handle. Captain Sha Luo, please tell me if you have any orders. Lu Chi said respectfully to Kaido. I need you to take a trip to the New World. New World. They were still a little surprised by Sha Luo's words. Sabayati Archipelago was only one step away. If Sha Luo wanted to go to New World and flew there easily, what on earth could have caused the three of them to set off in advance? Although they speculated on some questions, they did not ask them, but quietly waited for Sha Luo's next words. Well, Mr. Shiki's old department is now in the new century, and I need you to go over there first and get in touch with their Tongzi forces. Yes, Captain Sha Luo. Although he was a little puzzled that Sha Luo asked him and others to set off to find the old Golden Lion headquarters first, Lu Qi still accepted the task simply, and the captain's order was unquestionable. With Sha Luo's current reputation, he will definitely be known by people from the Golden Lion's old department when he enters the new world. Then he only needs to wait for them to send someone to invite him. However, Sha Luo plans to do some big things in Sabayati Archipelago. In order to prevent the world government from going crazy in the future, he still needs to make some backup preparations. By the way, take this. Sha Luo took out 3 second-generation military combat uniform bracelet transformers from his pocket and threw them over. These were products of the backward generation that Judge had given him before, and they did not contain vibranium metal or other substances. This is Germa's combat uniform, Lu Qi said with some surprise. He didn't expect Sha Luo to actually give them such combat uniforms that can enhance their strength. This feeling of trust immediately made them identify more with the captain. After putting on their bracelets, Lu Qi and the other 3 activated their battle suits through the control panel. Instantly, a black suit appeared on them, and of course the indispensable cloak. Lu Qi felt that his strength had increased, and he could control his abilities better, and the battle suit could also give his attacks a thunder and lightning effect. I have prepared the sailing ship. You will leave on the ship later. With the ability of detecting intelligence learned by UCP-9, this small task should not be difficult. Quote, "Don't worry, Captain Sha Luo, we will definitely complete the mission. Go ahead, we will probably arrive in New World sometime later. Well, you will just have to watch the news to find out." Sha Luo waved his hand to signal a few people to leave, and then Lu Qi and others took off Shangxi's hood and walked out. Next to the giant battleship, Sha Luo has already prepared the small sailboat used for previous voyages. It does not take much time to coat such small ships, and the sailing speed will be faster. It's time to break up with the world government. I really don't know how they will respond then. Li Haohao, since he has decided to become the king of the world, of course Sha Luo will also announce his will to the world. Arrival. He has said before that Momonosuke is one of the characters on his must-kill list. Celestial Dragons is also on his list. Especially the guy named Charles Saint. His stupid pig look made him want to kill this guy himself when he watched the animation before. But unexpectedly, the original Luffy's angry punch could not break the Celestial Dragon's armor, and even earned the opponent the title of Shield of Celestial Dragons. Since he is reborn into this world, he can do what he wants to do as he pleases. The regrets from the past will now be made up for by himself. Then Sha Luo also returned to the lobby to chat with the other women, and by the way, Perona gradually integrated into the atmosphere on the ship. Night. Nami got her reward as she wished and was paid special attention to by Sha Luo. The first to be defeated. Early the next morning, the giant battleship successfully walked out of the Devil's Triangle. The sun was shining on the deck, and everyone on the ship was in a better mood. I'm just an LSP. What shame do I have to live in this world? I will only waste every rice I eat. In the crew training room, Sha Luo knelt on the ground passively, and there was a negative atmosphere around him. Ha 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 ha, Sha Luo, you have today too. Nami and Karina hugged their bellies and laughed loudly. Ever since Sha Luo debuted, she had never seen this man in such a mess as he is now. Well, it's indeed a paramecia fruit with regular abilities. If I don't use armament hockey to resist before I'm hit, I won't be able to resist at all after I'm hit. After recovering, Sha Luo wiped the sweat from her forehead. Since he had nothing to do today, he couldn't help but take Perona to the training room to practice. With Perona's fruit ability, melee ability is not the focus of her training. On the contrary, if the fruit ability is used well, she can develop more ghosts. Sha Luo, who was very curious about the ghost's negative power, also tried its power, and ended up with the same result as he just saw. Sha Luo did not use his armed color to resist before being attacked, and had no idea of using his armed color to resist after being attacked. This kind of unpredictable ability can be used even if Sha Luo is hit by a trick. If Marine Admiral is not careful and is hit by a trick, he may not be able to avoid being passive for a few seconds. These few seconds are the key to the outcome of the battle. Then Sha Luo turned to look at Nami and Karina, who were laughing loudly. The other women were more reserved even when they laughed. Even Khalifa, who looked more serious, couldn't help laughing. Originally, Makita had the same personality as Nami, but since she became so popular. After Sha Luo was taken down for the first time, she didn't dare to be too presumptuous for fear of retaliation. In the end, Sha Luo couldn't stand Nami anymore, so she glanced at Perona, who understood what he meant, but Nami and Karina were now her best friends on the ship, and she really couldn't bear to play tricks on them. A new friend. But under the force of Sha Luo's eyes, Perona trembled, and she couldn't bear to release the negative ghost through the two women's bodies. The two women who were laughing instantly became wars. I really want to return all the stolen goods. I will never be able to draw a complete map of the world. PFF ha 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 ha, that's really interesting. Nami's smiles did not disappear, but moved to Sha Luo's face. I didn't expect these two people to say such words after being negative, but it does fit their characters very well. Hey, Miss Ship Doctor, are the three of them really okay? A drop of sweat dropped from Perona's forehead, her expression turned into a sweaty bean, and she asked Kaya next to her with a speechless expression. Well, this is the way they usually get along. It's not a brain problem, Kaya explained to her with a smile. Perona leaned back and looked at her in disbelief. Not only did this woman guess what I meant, she actually said it seriously. Isn't she afraid of being overheard by some Sha Luo? Looking at this girl with a gentle smile, Perona couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Obviously her hair is pink, but she feels that this girl with yellow hair has black hair if she cuts it off. Perona-chan. A hand was placed on each shoulder, and the voices of Nami and Karina were heard in his ears. We are good sisters, right? What did you just do to your good sister? What? From Perona's perspective, Nami and Karina had black lines on their heads, and their two little faces seemed to have been magnified dozens of times, and they were directly in front of her to accuse them. Ah, it's none of my business. Captain Sha Luo asked me to do it. Captain Sha Luo, please save me. Perona was startled and screamed strangely. She immediately ran behind Sha Luo crying and trembling. After seeing Perona being frightened, Nami and Karina nodded with satisfaction. They couldn't just let them get hurt. Well, the fruit of Perona is a good way to train your will. If you can rely on your will to eliminate negative thoughts, you can be fearless even in the face of the red-haired conqueror's haki of the four emperors. Sha Luo pulled Perona out from behind, then hugged her and touched her head to comfort her. She secretly gave Nami and Karina a thumbs up and will continue to add chicken drumsticks to you tonight. After a long time, Perona blushed and pushed away. Your Lingling fruit has a very powerful effect. If it is used well, even the four emperors' admiral will probably be affected by you. However, the current level of development is not enough. In the future, you will focus on developing the Lingling fruit ability, and other lets help with training. But how can I make my fruit power stronger? I heard that Sha Luo asked herself to develop fruit abilities, but Perona was also confused about this and had no idea where the development direction was. The Lingling fruit is mainly used to control ghosts in combat. You can try to imagine yourself as a ghost and make your body float as a ghost. In this way, ordinary physical attacks cannot hurt you. If others are fighting you in close combat, you can inject negative capabilities into weapons to catch the enemy off guard. Perona's eyes lit up, and the image of herself floating in the air as a ghost and fighting the enemy appeared in her mind. If the enemy hadn't used armament haki and been hit by the negative energy injected by him, the scene would have been really interesting. The other girls also imagined the scene of Perona fighting with the negative power of the spirit fruit, and couldn't help but shudder at the same time. The ability of the Lingling fruit is really pervert. It can even pass through my barrier. If haki hadn't been able to resist it, it would be an invincible ability. Karina sighed with emotion. In the past 2 years of training, she had sparred with everyone on the ship, but the most difficult thing was Robin's flower fruit, which could directly interrupt her moves regardless of her barrier. Now that there is another Perona who can ignore her barrier, I always feel that my barrier fruit is not as effective as before. Indeed, the abilities of Paramecia's fruits are weirder than the last, and they are mutually reinforcing. It's incredible how mutually exclusive they are. Quote. Nami nodded in agreement. As the second most powerful force on the ship, she was unable to break Karina's barrier, but Karina was easily restrained by Robin and Perona. After sighing, several people also returned to the state of cultivation. Corona also released negative ghosts to accompany several people in training, but at this time they had already activated armament hockey to resist. Even so, some negative thoughts can't help but arise, but they have been restrained very well. Sha Luo walked up to Kaya, looked at Kaya who acted harmless and pitiful, and pinched her little face slightly. I heard it just now. When did little Kaya become so evil? Did she learn from Robin Chan? Ah, Sister Robin said, you can't be too obedient to a scumbag like brother Sha Luo. You need to learn how to protect yourself. Kaya said angrily with her little face puffed up, but she looked very cute. Obviously he came first. Kaya turned her head away from Sha Luo and murmured. She also wanted to stick with Sha Luo, but she didn't have Reiju's courage to raid at night. As more and more crew members were on the ship, Sha Luo had less and less time to stick with her. Looking at Kaya's aggrieved face, Sha Luo felt that this girl had grown up. The apples that have been raised for 2 years are ripe and ready to eat. The giant battleship wandered in the first half of the Great Route, and Sha Luo took this opportunity to visit the islands on other routes. I was stuck in signing in for the first 2 days before arriving at Sabayati Archipelago. Near noon, the red line, symbolizing the endpoint of the first half of the Great Route, finally caught the eye of Sha Luo and his party. This is a towering red clay wall. At the top of this wall is the Holy Land Mariajoy, that has ruled the sea and the map for 800 years. 10,000 meters below the wall is the only way for pirates and irregular people to reach the New World. The Fishmen Island is known as the Undersea Paradise. Sha Luo's goal is the Sabayati Archipelago in the sea between them. This is the back garden of the Celestial Dragons. There are a large number of Marines stationed at all times. Not far from here is the Naval Headquarters Marineford, which maintains order in the sea. But there are also illegal areas here, where pirates, human traffickers, and bounty hunters gather, so countless famous trading and auction houses have been born. You can buy anything you want here, whether it's devil fruit, a beautiful dancing girl, or a famous sword. Sha Luo has never participated in an auction, but she is still very interested in it. The Sabayati Archipelago is almost here, head towards that direction at full speed. Since the Sabayati Archipelago itself has no magnetic force, Sha Luo can only release observation hockey to sense the location of the island. Because it is under the red line, it can quickly find its location. Okay, full speed ahead, Nami shouted enthusiastically. I have long heard from Sha Luo how beautiful the Sabayati Archipelago is, and the girls who have never been there in person are also full of curiosity and yearning for it. They also wanted to see for themselves what this archipelago formed by the world's largest mangroves looked like. After seeing the full picture of the Sabayati Archipelago in person, Nami wants to add it to her world map. The Sabayati Archipelago has a total of 79 islands. The lower the number, the more chaotic the islands. Numbers 1 to 29 are the main activity areas for criminals, human traffickers, and bounty hunters. The higher the number, the more upscale the places inside, and the more people are stationed in Marine, especially No. 60 to 69. This is the area where justice is located. Even the big figures in the dark world dare not approach easily. Only world government-only legal merchants from the franchised countries can enter. As expected of the island known as the Island of Failure, and the Island of Starting Again, it is really prosperous. Sha Luo and others disembarked in Area 20. If no one is left to guard the huge warship, it will definitely be targeted by lawless elements on these islands. So in front of the eyes of many lawless people, the Longyu slowly lifted off and stayed at an altitude of 10,000 meters. Sha Luo not only gave the giant battleship a name, but also added a pirate flag. The appearance is Sha Luo's iconic golden hair with skulls, deadwood, and Sakura 10. This is the ability of Lion Fruit. He is the legendary big pirate. Golden Lion 2, Sha Luo. In the dark alley, the lawless men stared at the warship taking off in stunned silence, shouting involuntarily. Just now, they were still plotting against Sha Luo and the others. If they really took action, the only outcome would be death. They are not little pirates with no experience. They have been in the Sabayati Archipelago all year round and have met countless big shots. They also have a good understanding of devil fruit. That's why they have the ability to judge at a glance which characters can be provoked and which characters cannot be provoked, otherwise they would have died here long ago. Let's go, they are just minor characters, don't pay attention to them. Of course, Sha Luo and his party also discovered countless criminals hiding in the dark. After all, the Longyu was too conspicuous. Few people could see such a huge luxury battleship. If you can build it, it is natural for you to be targeted. I want to go to the shopping street at number 30, does anyone want to go with me? Nami and Karina said immediately. I kind of want to go to the restaurant on number 24 to have a look at the special delicacies here, and also learn a lot about it. Nokigao caressed her cheek and said with a confused look on her face. Michita also expressed that she wanted to go to number 24 to see if Sabayati Archipelago has any special chocolates. After a series of discussions, Sha Luo finally decided. In that case, let's go to the restaurant on the 24th to have lunch first, pass the restaurant and then go to the soap bubble park on the 30th 39th to take a look. None of the girls had objections to Sha Luo's proposal. Okay, then let's go. After making the decision, Sha Luo took the lead and headed towards island number 24. Each Yalki mangrove tree has a conspicuous number, so it is not difficult for Sha Luo to find island No. 24. Walking on the street, a strange elephant composed of 12 beauties and a man shocked passers-by. They have never seen such a scenery. 12 beautiful girls with different styles, plus a very handsome man. The combination of handsome men and beautiful women attracts the attention of passers-by. Especially the men on the roadside looked at Sha Luo with envy and hatred. This guy is so happy. He is accompanied by so many beauties. Is he a young master from somewhere? Passers-by shed sad tears, and some married men cried loudly when they thought of their tigress. After all, Sha Luo's young appearance and his unique, overlord, temperament in the eyes of outsiders do seem to be very suitable for the title of a noble son. The women looked at Sha Luo with love in their eyes and wanted to strike up a conversation, but when they saw Nami and others beside him, they fell into a position of shame and lost the courage to strike up a conversation. PFF'd, Sha Luo, you are such a sinful man, you are so greedy for others. Nami looked at the men in pain on the side of the road, couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle, and said silently. That's not why you are so beautiful. This is my luck, Sha Luo praised without hesitation. Of course, you are lucky to have us by your side. Nami flipped up her orange hair and said with a contented expression. The other girls also chuckled, obviously very impressed by young Sha Luo's praise. News of Sha Luo and the 12 beauties on board also began to spread throughout the illegal zone No. 1 to 29. In the eyes of people in the dark world, these handsome men and beauties are like a walking mobile treasure house. The nobles and some businessmen here like beauties and handsome guys like them the most. Their looks can definitely sell for a sky-high price. So as the information spread, many forces in the illegal zone and countless bounty hunters and human traffickers focused on them, and began to arrest them one after another. But what they don't know is that what awaits them is not gold and silver treasures, but a door to hell. With just a slight push, they will enter the abyss. In addition to these criminals, there is another person who is also eyeing Sha Luo. That is the super strong man who stands at the top of this world, the second in command of the pirate king who ushered in the era of great pirates, and the silver Rayleigh who calls himself the master. Island 13, inside Shaki's Rip-Off Tavern. The kid you are waiting for has landed on the island. I heard that he is now on the island on the 24th. Why don't you go and have a look? Shaki asked casually, holding a cigarette in his mouth. At this time, she was holding a seemingly tall pirate in her hand, but the latter's nose was bruised and his face was swollen, his eyes had turned white, and he had obviously fainted. There were also a group of staggering pirates on the ground. Well, there are many people on the island who are eyeing him. Pirates, human traffickers, bounty hunters, and even marine are also paying attention to him. There is no rush now. Rayleigh shook the wine glass in her hand and said lightly. Although he is 70 years old and his face is full of wrinkles, his elegant temperament makes him look like a handsome man. How are you going to deal with Xiaoba's matter? After all, we are not responsible. Tisk, these guys are so poor. Shachi skillfully plundered money from the pirates, and then packed them all up and threw them out of the tavern with a calm expression. Since you choose to become a pirate, you must be prepared to be killed. Hachi and the others have been doing whatever they want in East Blue for so long. It is natural for them to be retaliated against. But after all, Hachi is my savior, so I still have to go and meet him. Noodle. Quote. Rayleigh raised the glass and took a sip, then stood up. Well, don't go too far. After all, he is the successor of that old guy Shaki. Be careful, he pops out of the graveyard and drags you down. Shaki blew out a smoke ring and opened one eye, unable to breathe properly. Ha ha ha, are you worried about the successor of your old cakehead? If that guy Shaki still dares to come out, I will put him back in the cemetery, don't worry. Rayleigh teased with a playful tone, and then walked towards the door. When you come back from now on, you can sleep on the floor for me. However, Rayleigh's teasing words obviously angered her, and she immediately used a cold and stern tone to Kaido. Rayleigh suddenly staggered, but his superb strength allowed him to get back upright. He rubbed the back of his head helplessly and walked out of the tavern and closed the door. It seems that I have to change my bad habit of oral pleasure in the future, otherwise I won't be able to sleep in bed anymore, Rayleigh thought to herself. As the captain of the previous Generation 9 Snakes Pirates, Shaki had great strength, and he also joined the Rocks Pirate, which was at the height of its popularity at the time. At that time, the young Shaki was even more beautiful, which also attracted the admiration of Golden Lion Shaki, who was also a Rocks Pirate. Powerful and beautiful, isn't this the perfect woman Shaki longs for? When I started to pursue Shaki, but was always rejected. It was not until the failure of Rocks Pirate and the disbandment that Shaki also left. After the Roger Pirates completed the feat of sailing the world and became known as the Pirate King and disbanded the pirates, Rayleigh came to the Sabayati archipelago and met Shaki, and then fell in love. But Rayleigh knew about Shaki's previous pursuit by Golden Lion, so he would occasionally be teased by Rayleigh, but in the end he would be thrown out to sleep on the floor. Mr. Shiki's unrequited love relationship also came to an end after he was imprisoned. After he was released from prison, he continued to fight to fulfill his ambitions without leaving any children. Finally, after an accident, he drifted to the island of East Blue and chose Sha Luo became his successor. Poor old man Shiki. Bang bang bang. In a remote corner of island number 27, which is a fairly empty area, a series of punches and kicks were heard. Just now, after tasting the special delicacies of Sabayati archipelago, they headed towards area number 30 and reached the edge of the island. Countless pirates and traffickers poured out and surrounded Sha Luo and others. The pirates burst into laughter all of a sudden, and a few of them didn't even say a word. With his bare hands, he planned to step forward to grab Nami and the girls, but was instantly knocked to the ground by the girls. Gia, there is a moment, but I advise you not to resist, lest you suffer the pain of flesh and blood, and I won't be able to sell you at a good price even if I hurt you. The man who seemed to be the leader of a certain force said with a smile. Of course Sha Luo and the others had discovered these hidden pirates a long time ago, but they were just so annoying to follow these little tails all the time, so they simply gathered them together and dealt with them 10 times. Nami, get rid of them all, leaving no one alive. Sha Luo said calmly. Understood. Nami nodded, and then several violent thunder and lightning emerged from his hand and converged into a thunder dragon. This is the power of the Logia fruit. Run quickly, you are a master. The pirate leader who had just clamored for Sha Luo not to resist now opened his eyes wide and shouted in disbelief, and ran backwards without hesitation. Are you kidding? This kind of natural disaster-like power is actually in a little girl, and he actually wants to take advantage of them. A gloom surged into the minds of pirates and human traffickers, and they had a premonition that this would be the biggest trouble they had ever encountered. Nami didn't want to give these hateful pirates a chance to escape. The Thunder Dragon passed over these desperate pirates at extremely fast speeds. Anyone who touched the thunder and lightning. All the people turned into charcoal and fell to the ground. After a while, all the pirates present were electrocuted to death. No one could escape Nami's ultra-wide-range observation Haki's radio wave. Nami waved his hand to dissipate the thunder and lightning, and then came to the person with a proud look on his face. Although Nami was speechless, Sha Luo also knew what she wanted, so he hugged Nami and touched her hair as a compliment. Although I can easily kill Conqueror's Haki, it will make a lot of noise, so it is more convenient to use Nami's thunder and lightning to kill more efficiently. Suddenly, both Nami and Sha Luo seemed to feel something, and Nami left Sha Luo's arms in a flash. Then a sharp sword flew straight towards Sha Luo. Phew, clang. The sharp sword made a piercing sound and hit Sha Luo's body. It did not stop until the sword body collapsed. Looking at the broken sword on the ground, the corners of Sha Luo's mouth curled up slightly, and blood surged into her heart. There was only one person in the Sabayati archipelago who was a master of swordsmanship, and he recognized his identity. Rayleigh, who was hiding in the dark, was already looking at Sha Luo in stunned silence. He didn't use armament hockey in that attack just now, he was just testing Sha Luo. As for Nami in Sha Luo's arms, he had Nami that was elementalized by motion. He wouldn't feel that this kind of attack that didn't cover armament hockey could do anything, hurt the other person. He had imagined that Sha Luo would use her swordsmanship and physical skills to interrupt his flying sword, but he never thought that Sha Luo would actually block the attack with her physical body. The only people in this sea who can withstand his attack physically are the old woman Charlotte Linlin and the boy Kaido. He saw the shadows of these two monsters in Sha Luo's figure. Is it also a monster with special characteristics? And the look of this blonde hair? A strange thought appeared in Rayleigh's mind. This kid couldn't be the result of Golden Lion and Charlotte Linlin's incest, right? This kind of monster physique coupled with this blonde hair, and his hobby of finding women. No matter how you look at it, it looks like a combination of Golden Lion and Charlotte Linlin. Charlotte Linlin also likes to find men, so there is nothing wrong with him thinking this way. Forehead. After hearing what Sha Luo said, big beads of sweat dropped from Rayleigh's forehead. Although he still had doubts about Sha Luo's life experience, the last sentence was the key to making him speechless. No matter how you looked at it, it looked like this kid was in Versailles. Why is the move known as Elbaf Spear so easy to learn? So far, apart from the giants, only that crazy woman Linlin can use it. This kid's strength and physical fitness are different from ordinary people. His specialness is comparable to Linlin's special physique. Rayleigh thought secretly with a serious expression. Hey, Uncle Rayleigh, you are also a swordsman, right? As a legendary pirate and the second in command of One Piece, you must be very strong. Come and have a few fights with me and let me see the strength of One Piece's crew. Sha Luo said in a somewhat excited tone that he finally met a swordsman master. How could he let go of this opportunity to fight? Since his debut, he has never met a swordsman who can fight. Half of his strength comes from his physical fitness and hockey. The other third comes from your own powerful swordsmanship. Only when the three are combined can you exert your most powerful power. The fruit ability can only provide him with a supporting effect, and cannot be fully integrated into his swordsmanship. Meeting Rayleigh, who is also a master of swordsmanship, also aroused his passion for fighting potential swordsmanship masters, and also aroused the fighting spirit he had accumulated for a long time and wanted to release. What kind of world is One Piece? It is the world of passionate comics. Who would come to such a world without a dream of fighting heartily? His fighting strength against Aokiji hadn't really grown before, and he might not be his match in the end, but now he has grown up. Of course I long for an evenly matched battle. Haha, I'm just an old man who is about to be buried. I can't bear the name of a strong man. Rayleigh no longer wanted to teach Sha Chuan a lesson at this time. Just now, his powerful observation hockey has sensed Sha Luo's powerful attack. With his current strength, it may be difficult to teach Sha Luo a lesson. It's probably going to be a life and death situation down there. And the purpose of his trip has actually been achieved. The main thing is to come here and see what kind of person Sha Luo is he as ambitious as the Golden Lion? Or is he a truly bloodthirsty and cruel pirate? Through interactions with Nami and others, he found this young man very interesting. Unlike the cruel pirates who treat ordinary civilians, they get along with the crew very easily, and they are very cold-blooded towards the enemies who peek at the crew, so they are referred to as protectors. The atmosphere on this pirate ship is very similar to the atmosphere on his previous pirate ship and the atmosphere on Whitebeard's pirate ship. Moreover, Sha Luo is still a monster newcomer in this era, a guy with such talent. Whether you are a pirate, an adventurer, or a bounty hunter. For this era of great navigation started by Roger, young people like him are exactly needed. Are you kidding? How could you easily withstand the attack of Wigwo just now? You tell me that he is just an old man who is about to be buried. I don't care. Since you started the war, you have to let me fight until I feel good. Sha Luo grinned. He didn't care what Rayleigh was thinking at this time and just moved quickly with his shaver. Swish, clang, boom. Sha Luo's double swords and Rayleigh's western long sword hadn't come into contact yet, but there was a clashing sound of gold and iron. A violent airflow erupted between the swords, shattering the ground. A black ball made of lightning flew out from it. Strong winds and lightning wreaked havoc on the area. The strong winds blew Sha Luo and lay away. Li's hair flew. Karina immediately raised a barrier to block the strong wind. This, obviously we didn't touch it at all. Why did such a powerful impact happen? Nami stared at this scene with wide eyes and made a sound of surprise. She had never seen the collision between conquerors and conquerors before. This was the first time. I'm afraid it's an anomaly caused by the collision between conquerors' haki. I heard Captain Sha Luo say before that the top-level conquerors' haki entanglement can attack the opponent with ear contact. The knowledgeable Robin also looked at this scene in shock. She usually likes reading the most and is also very eager to acquire knowledge. Of course she had asked Sha Luo about something as mysterious as conquerors' haki. The impact of conquerors' haki. Sha Luo is so strong. Perona, who was the last to board the ship, was so shocked that she could not speak. What came to her mind was the blow that Sha Luo defeated Moria. Did this guy already hold back at that time? If an attack with this kind of power hits Lord Moria, I'm afraid we will never see each other again. Thinking of this, Perona couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Ming Ti Pei-o. After Conqueror's impact dissipated, Sha Luo's double swords continued to slash at Rayleigh with ferocious attacks. The sound of clashing swords was endless. What kind of strange power is this? When he actually started to fight with Sha Luo, Rayleigh's expression changed slightly as he felt a slight numbness on his wrist. Only then did he truly realize the power of Sha Luo. But fortunately, the battle between real masters does not just rely on strange strength. Rayleigh's powerful armament haki also played a vital role in blocking Sha Luo's attack. If it weren't for the protection of armament haki, the two hands that withstood Sha Luo's full slash would have been fractured on the spot. As for Sha Luo, whose physique had completely evolved, he could easily crush the ground with his feet with just a slight movement. With a slight increase in speed, he immediately trampled the ground that had been devastated by the sword energy into even more pieces. The next second, the invisible aura of armed color entangled on the dead wood floor. Slash wave. 0302 huge sword energy flew towards Rayleigh again. Without any hesitation, Rayleigh directly injected armament haki into the western long sword, and then slashed out the western long sword held horizontally. A sword energy that was not inferior to the Sha Luo slash wave rushed forward. The collision of the three sword energy lasted for a while and then a huge explosion occurred. The scene suddenly filled with smoke. Suddenly a black energy blast broke through the smoke. That was the Armstrong spin slash that Sha Luo quickly gathered at Conqueror's haki. This attack was not as powerful as Wigwo's, so Rayleigh just clenched the sword with both hands and slapped it hard to disperse the energy. Next up is Sha Luo hiding behind the energy. I saw Sha Luo smiling excitedly, and the duel with Rayleigh made his blood boil. The two swords slashed downwards rapidly. Seeing this scene, Rayleigh's pupils shrank, and the powerful observation haki sensed the trajectory of Sha Luo's attack. Then his body burst out with astonishing speed and dodged past. At the same time, the western long sword in his hand accumulated powerful Conqueror's haki. God avoids. Sha Luo, who was gradually getting a little better, also felt Rayleigh's attack. Just when I was about to use my full shave to avoid it, I felt a pressure as heavy as a mountain on my chest. Then Sha Luo flew out along with this force, flying thousands of meters from a remote area and crashing into a house. Phew, what a new monster. He actually made me use this move after a long time. Rayleigh was also sweating profusely at this time, and after taking a long breath, he slowly spoke. Mainly because when he had just competed with Sha Luo in swordsmanship, resisting his heavy attacks consumed a lot of his energy. Sha Luo, Captain Sha Luo. He was actually beaten away. The women's eyes widened, and their mouths were already open enough to hold Sha Luo's sandbag-sized fists. The pirates and citizens in Block 27 stared dumbfoundedly at Sha Luo, who had collapsed several houses. What happened? First, the top of the mangrove tree in the tomb of Yalki was knocked off, and now something destroyed the house. Is it Marine Admiral? The pirates and citizens were talking with cold sweat on their foreheads as they looked at the collapsed ruins. And Sha Luo was sitting in the ruins in the position where Jie Yu was lying down. Before he could realize what happened, he flew over. What a surprise! He is indeed a veteran pirate. Even at 76 years old, he can carry out such a powerful attack. I really don't know how strong these old guys were when they were young. Ha ha ha, it makes me even more excited. Sha Luo murmured to himself in the ruins, and became excited after speaking. Boom. The gravel splashed. Sha Luo stood up, and then accelerated and blinked. Call out. Within 2 seconds, Sha Luo's figure reappeared in the field where they had just fought. But at this time, there was already a small wound on his chest. Although it was not deep, it did cause some damage to Sha Luo. Sha Luo, Captain Sha Luo, are you okay? The girls showed worried looks. Most of them wanted to see Sha Luo appear in such an embarrassed state. Although the injuries were not serious, they were enough to make some of them feel distressed for a while. It's okay, it's just a minor injury. Sha Luo responded with a smile, then turned to look at Rayleigh, her eyes becoming serious. Roger's divine evasion. What an amazing swordsmanship. I felt like I could dodge, but I still got hit. Is this the legendary kill by witness? Sha Luo wiped a little blood that overflowed from her chest and said calmly. Saw, who knows? Rayleigh shrugged and chuckled. The meaning of God avoidance is not God avoidance, but God death, an attack that even gods cannot avoid. It seems that the Man of Steel is not completely immune to injuries, but presumably, young Kaido will also be injured by Odin's Taoyuan 10 Fists. Auntie's steel balloon couldn't escape unscathed even if it hit Roger's divine evasion. Being able to cause Sha Luo's current body to be harmed is enough to prove how powerful Roger's divine avoidance is. But it was precisely because of this that it made his blood boil. Good job, old guy, I'm more interested in you big pirates from the old era. Sha Luo couldn't help but smile even wider. Hey, isn't it? Brother Sha Luo, do you want to fight again? Seeing Sha Luo's expression, the corner of Rayleigh's mouth twitched slightly. Where did this kid get the fighting madness? This is not like Golden Lion. Now he doesn't want to fight the battle he started, but he feels he can't hold back anymore. Isn't this natural? What we just did was just a warm-up. Let's enjoy the exciting fight next. Sha Luo's expression was laughing wildly, whether it was Rayleigh's superb swordsmanship or. He was very satisfied with the unavoidable, divine evasion, move. This was the battle he longed for. Is it just a warm-up? Hey, brother Sha Luo, how about we stop here? As an old man, I can no longer keep up with young people like you. To be honest, the battle just now has consumed most of my energy. If we continue to fight, I will probably be defeated by you when I run out of energy first, and you have already discovered it, right? There is a large group of Marines coming here, and I don't want Marines to disturb my pure life here. Quote. Rayleigh said with a complicated expression and a bitter smile. At this time, he had to accept his old age. Compared with energetic young people like Sha Luo, he was no longer at his peak. The future era also belongs to young people like them, and it's time for old guys like them to retire. Tisk, Marine, are you really disturbing other people's good things? Sha Luo clicked his tongue and looked a little unhappy. These Marines really knew how to pick the right moment to interrupt his desire to fight. He also saw Rayleigh's intention to give up, but he didn't believe Rayleigh's nonsense about having no physical strength anymore. In his perception, Rayleigh's vitality is still very strong now. He doesn't want to experience the exhaustion after the war. At least he can still fight with him for a day. Well, see you later. Brother Sha Luo, if you have time, you can go to the casino here. Come and have a drink with me. I'm very curious about what Golden Lion has done in these years to end up in East Blue. After Rayleigh finished speaking with a smile, the soles of her feet disappeared instantly as if they were oiled. I'm sorry Xiaoba, this is the last thing I, an old man, can do. Rayleigh sighed secretly. Think of that divine avoidance just now as revenge for you. TCH, he's running away so fast. Is this the speed at which the legendary pirate escapes? I finally know why Marine Hero Garp has never been able to catch these guys. After recovering from Rayleigh's running away, Shaluo curled her lips and said. So what if those useless Marines come over, why don't they just leave them here? Without Admiral's attack, there is no way to compete with this old guy. It was obvious that the old guy was afraid of him, so he ran away. Thinking of this, Shaluo couldn't help but feel a little better, and smiled proudly. What should we do, Shaluo? Do we have to retreat too? After all, there is quite a lot of noise here, and maybe some admiral will come over later. Seeing that Rayleigh had retreated, Nami also stepped forward to ask for help. No, since these Marines Jiaos dared to interrupt my battle, I have to show them some color. Shaluo waved her hands and denied. A few minutes later, Marine also arrived at Area 27. The leader Lu Shu couldn't help but frown when he saw the tragic scene after the battle and the dead pirates and human traffickers. After seeing Shaluo, he showed an expression that was true, but what followed was a headache. Judging from the appearance of the scene, it was obvious that this group of desperate pirates had provoked Shaluo, but they did not expect that it would cause such a big turmoil. He knew the strength of the pirates and human traffickers of the Sabayati archipelago. He couldn't figure out why the other party went to such trouble to destroy the tops of the mangroves and destroy the residential buildings into ruins when a conqueror's hockey could solve it. Lu Shu didn't know that Shaluo was fighting Rayleigh, and mistook the messy scene as Shaluo's solution to the human traffickers. Chapter 81. Marine-san, you just interrupted the battle I was looking forward to. Have you figured out how to apologize with death? Shaluo showed a ferocious smile. He recognized who the leader Marine was. The well-known veteran Marine elite Vice Admiral, Lu Shu, in pirate fan fiction is an indispensable character in every pirate fiction. As a longtime reader, Shaluo has a hard time not knowing him. Although killing this veteran Vice Admiral may lead to crazy revenge from Marine, who makes him very angry now. And he also happened to hit the muzzle of the gun. If he didn't die, who would die? Wait, Golden Lion to Shaluo, we are not here to fight you. Seeing that Shaluo was about to draw a knife and kill people, Lu Shu immediately shouted. His strength can give Shaluo a brief fight, but the men behind him are in dire straits. According to intelligence, almost all the women on Shaluo's ship have good combat effectiveness. Fighting should be avoided if possible, otherwise their unit will probably be wiped out before they can get support from the Marines. Not here to arrest me. How interesting. Let me tell you, as Marines, if you don't come to arrest me, why are you watching? Why would a veteran Vice Admiral come here to run errands? Quote. After hearing this, Shaluo became interested. What could Marine take so seriously? Lu Shu breathed out lightly and wiped the cold sweat from his head. He almost messed up the mission, but luckily he shouted quickly enough, otherwise a fight would have started. Golden Lion 2. Shaluo, I now formally invite you in the name of world government to serve as the new 7 warlords of the sea. After regaining his breath, Lu Shu said with a solemn look on his face. 7 warlords of the sea. Shaluo looked confused. Yes, after Marshal Sengoku's consideration, you have reached the level of strength that is enough to serve as a Shichibukai. As long as you agree, you can enjoy the special rights of a Shichibukai. Marshal Sengoku said that he can agree to a condition that is not excessive. But I heard that a new person has replaced Crocodile in the past 2 years. 7 warlords of the sea is now full, right? Are you trying to trick me into waiting for Marine's rescue? Shaluo stared at him suspiciously. No, Marshal Sengoku has revoked the authority of that Shichibukai a few days ago. Now he is no longer a Shichibukai, so there is still a vacancy. Lu Shu, who was stared at by Shaluo questioningly, broke out in cold sweat again, fearing that the other party would draw his sword and pounce on him next moment. Haha, abolition. It's really interesting. The status of world government's lackey is just something that can be abolished in just words. Shaluo looked interested and said nonchalantly. Well, after all, that Shichibukai has experienced too many failures and can no longer take on the title of Shichibukai, and you have strong strength and influence. The status of living as a Shichibukai is perfect. Lu Shu did not refute Shaluo's identity as a lackey of the world government, because this identity has great temptation. Even if you want to be a lackey of the world government, the pirate group will take over. Shichibukai, it's interesting. I didn't expect that even if I destroyed Eni's lobby, I would be tolerated by the world government. He also personally sent the elite vice admiral to negotiate with him. He really thinks highly of himself. Sha Luo has no interest in guaranteeing high, even if Su Fen will not be hunted by Marine, he can still carry out legal robbery. He will never do anything like being a dog to the world government. However, it would still be a day before he signed in, and Marine would not do anything to him until he refused. Then why not take this opportunity to play with Nami and the others in the Sabayati archipelago without restraint? Thinking of this, Sha Luo raised her eyebrows and made a decision in her heart. Let's fool this Marine first, and then we can make a fuss and reject him tomorrow when we have had enough fun. 7 Warlords of the Sea. Not even a dog. 7 Warlords of the Sea, it's interesting, but I'm not in the mood to think about it now. My companions and I plan to spend a few days at the Sabayati archipelago. Now not only are those pirates interrupting my interest, but my desire to fight has also been interrupted by you Marines. Now I really can't get interested in thinking about this. Then what you mean, is to refuse. Hearing Sha Luo's words, Lu Shu looked serious, and his hand was already on the handle of the knife, ready to respond to Sha Luo's sudden attack. No, what I mean is that I have to make a decision after playing in Sabayati archipelago for 2 days. Before that, Marine, please don't disturb me and enjoy my life. Do you understand? Sha Luo smiled and shook her head. Shu Shu's expression was obviously startled, and then he relaxed and removed his hand from the hilt of the sword. Okay, I promise you. If you think about it later, I will come to Island 66 at any time. After thinking for a while, Lu Shu agreed to Sha Luo's request. 2 days was not long, and he could still afford to wait. Sha Luo shrugged. Since Marine had agreed, there was no need to trouble him. Then he hugged Nami and they headed towards No. 30 Soap Bubble Park. Vice Admiral, our support is late. Not long after Sha Luo left, a group of Marine soldiers arrived belatedly. The leader of them saluted Lu Shu. Judging from his military rank, he was a rear admiral. Well, it's okay. Has Kizaru Admiral returned to Naval Headquarters? Why are you the only one here to support us? Lu Shu nodded. It was pretty good to come from Naval Headquarters so quickly. But he also had a doubt, knowing that Sha Luo was a very difficult opponent. Why did Marshal Sengoku only send 1 rear admiral? Well, something big seems to have happened. Now all vice admirals have very important tasks. Kizaru Admiral will return to Naval Headquarters in 2 days, and other admirals are also summoned back. I see. Lu Shu said what he seemed to have understood, but he lowered his head and began to think deeply. What happened to make Marshal Sengoku treat him like this? But okay, time is stuck at the time when Sha Luo decides whether to become Shichibukai. This allows you to be fully prepared and supported. Then countless subordinates were summoned to return to island number 66 and ordered not to disturb Sha Luo and others from their visit to the Sabayati archipelago during these 2 days. Surveillance can only be done from a distance, and they have the perception of observation hockey. If you get too close, you may arouse the other person's resentment. The other side. Sha Luo and others have arrived at the shopping street at number 30. After experiencing a baptism of shopping, several people came to Soap Bubble Park. Private, Sha Luo, look, it's so beautiful there. After arriving at Soap Bubble Park, the girls were shocked by the sight in front of them, and they all exclaimed. Every one of the girls present has never experienced such a dreamy amusement park. Especially Nami, Robin, and Noki, the senior girls in high school. Their childhood was filled with pain and they had never seen such a beautiful amusement park. Okay, I will play with you all again later. Seeing Nami's excited look, Sha Luo couldn't help but caressed her hair. Have a great day at the end. Sha Luo returned to the ship and immediately started a new battle. The anger accumulated during the day's battle has no place to release, and now it can only be satisfied by sparring with Nami and the others. It's just that even if 7 girls come together, they still can't satisfy Sha Luo's desire to fight. Their fighting power is still too weak. Helpless, Sha Luo thought of Kaya, the ship's doctor. This ripe apple should be able to cure his desire to fight. Character diagram. Enjoyed 2 days of leisure time in Sabayati Archipelago. Playing Sabayati Archipelago during the day and practicing physical skills with 8 girls at night. I have to say that I feel extremely relaxed physically and mentally after wearing it. In the lobby of the Longyu cabin, Sha Luo is holding a giant chocolate donut made by Michita. This is a special flavor chocolate developed by Michita after she recently became a special chef. Sha Luo was seen sitting on the sofa with Perona in her arms, then showed a wicked smile and handed the donut to Perona. The latter showed bright eyes, and his nose twitched a few times due to the rich smell of chocolate. Want to eat? Sha Luo smiled. Aha, ah. Perona's little head nodded, and then she opened her mouth wide to take a bite, but her bite was in vain. Turning around, I saw Sha Luo holding up the donut with a smile. You can't eat this directly. If you want to eat it, you need a reward. Do you understand? Sha Luo tapped her cheek, and then moved closer. Her intention was obvious. I don't want it. Perona's cheeks bulged into little fleshy buns. Obviously she was very upset about what she had just done to Sha Luo. Is that so? That's a pity. I'm afraid you won't be able to eat Michita's special chocolate donuts. In front of her, Perona was so angry that she puffed up her cheeks, but Sha Luo didn't panic. Instead, she said something pretentious and took a bite of the donut. Mikita's skills have improved, and the chocolate she makes is getting more and more delicious. Sha Luo showed a satisfied smile and began to comment on the taste of the donuts and the richness of the chocolate. I'm going to find Michita to help me make one later. Even if I jump from there, I won't beg you, the big bad guy. Even though some saliva was seeping out of the corners of her mouth unconsciously, Perona was still very stubborn and shook her head without looking at Sha Luo, saying that she would go to Michita to do one later. Hey, what a pity. Michita can only make one of these special chocolate donuts a day. Why do I want to eat delicious donuts every day in the future? What should I do? Sha Luo showed a playful smile and said, there is only one per day, so I'm not afraid that you won't be in a hurry. What? Perona showed a surprised expression. Her mouth had turned into an O shape, and then she gritted her teeth and whispered, it's really despicable. Her little nose twitched to smell the rich chocolate aroma inside the donut, which seduced Perona's taste buds all the time. Finally unable to bear it any longer, she closed her eyes and leaned forward. Can you give it to me now? Perona blushed and stretched out her hand. For you. Having achieved her goal, Sha Luo handed over the donuts simply. After taking the donut, Perona couldn't wait to take a bite, and then showed a happy expression on her face. It looked so delicious. It seemed that Michita's special donuts suited her taste very well and directly conquered his taste buds. Except for the 2 maids of God and Robin, most of the crew were teased by him like this at the beginning. This was his way of getting closer. The maids of God are given to the duo for free, teasing and so on are completely unnecessary, and they are almost all serving Sha Luo. Sisters like Robin don't do this, and always reject Sha Luo with a sinister smile, and Sha Luo's expression of being helpless makes her find it very interesting. Every time, he will make you chuckle again and again. In this way, the relationship with Robin unknowingly became much closer, and Sha Luo's goal was half achieved. Another one, Reiju, who also has the attribute of royal sister, is completely opposite to Robin. No matter what temptation methods Sha Luo uses, she will eat them all without hesitation and counter-seduce Sha Luo. Especially after Reiju returned for free after 2 years, Sha Luo now has little resistance to Reiju and follows him after being tempted by him. 8 of the 12 crew members have been captured. Except for Robin, who is more difficult to deal with, Vivi and Perona are both very easy to deceive. Khalifa has already taken up the position of Sha Luo's secretary. She is said to be a secretary, but Sha Luo has nothing to deal with at all. Bang! Suddenly there was a sound of opening the door. Nami pushed the door open from outside. Sha Luo, I heard that there will be an auction on island number 1 today. Should we go there and have a look? Nami waved something like newspapers towards Sha Luo, which she and Karina obtained while collecting intelligence in the underground world. It records some news and information about the Sabayati archipelago, as well as the King of Guan. Some auction items in the number 1 island auction. Oh, auction. Population auction on island no. 1. I remember that's Doflamingo's territory, right? Sha Luo took the newspaper and read it, then rubbed his chin and thought. Island number 1 is the venue for the population auction, but there will also be various famous swords, devil fruit and other strange items there. I heard there was a population auction, but this time there was a blockbuster auction item, an unknown devil fruit. Nami happily told Sha Luo the information she found in the underground world. Every appearance of devil fruit undoubtedly creates a sensation at auctions. Although auctions have clearly marked prices, generally things like devil fruit are in short supply. There are also things like mermaids, which are very rare and only appear once a year. Whether you can encounter them depends on luck. But every time it appears, it will stir up the entire underground world of Sabayati Archipelago, and countless nobles and even celestial dragons will come to fight for it in person. Unknown devil fruit. It's interesting. Anyway, we've already visited other interesting places in Sabayati Archipelago, so why not go check it out? Sha Luo put away the newspaper in her hand and said with great interest. I knew you would be interested in this devil fruit. Nami's face was filled with joy, and then her nose suddenly twitched a few times, and she looked at Perona, who had a happy expression on her side. Huh, Perona-chan, what is this you're eating? It tastes good. Nami also smelled the rich fragrance of chocolate and asked curiously. It's a special super donut that Makita can only make once a day. It's really delicious. Perona smiled and explained to her little sister. It tastes really good. This is a new thing made by Michita's advanced pastry chef. Do you want to try it? Sha Luo nodded, and then took out a plate of donuts from the storage space. Ah, you captain, didn't you say you can only make one a day? So you lied to me. Perona, who had just finished eating the donuts, was still immersed in happiness, but the next second, Sha Luo took out a plate of donuts and she was stunned. Then he turned into an angry shark-toothed figure and grabbed Sha Luo by the collar and asked. Well, don't be excited, this is just made with leftover scraps mixed with other chocolates. Although it is still delicious, it is not as good as the one you just ate. Sha Luo patted the other party's little head and smiled softly. Perona angrily picked up another one and ate it. Sure enough, although the taste was good, it was still a little worse than the one just now. At this time, she also knew that she had misunderstood Sha Luo, and the other party did not lie. Realizing that it was her mistake, Perona lowered her head and apologized softly. Sha Luo didn't care either and touched it with a smile. Touched the other person's little head. The sun is high, at noon. The beep from the system finally sounded. Ding, the sign-in system has detected the target Sabayati Archipelago. Do you want to check in the target? Sign in. Ding, get 20% death resistance. Ding, get pet egg X1. Ding, get Ji Shen, swordsmanship. Ding, the next check-in location is Punk Hazard. Check-in will be open in 20 days. Host, please go to the check-in location to sign in. The moment I saw the sign-in reward, I was immediately shocked. Then a huge amount of swordsmanship memories poured into Sha Luo's mind, but with the system there was no headache. Sha Luo feels that this memory has messed up her mind. Now she only thinks about swords. What is swordsmanship? In the end, Sha Luo was surrounded by countless chaotic sword shadows in her mind. Inadvertently, Sha Luo said something to herself. Will the realm of swordsmanship be endless? This sentence seemed to wake Sha Luo up from the fantasy in his mind. The realm of swordsmanship never ends. Sha Luo clasped her palms tightly and murmured to herself, feeling the changes brought about by the newly acquired skills. The realm of swordsmanship that had not been broken through in the Bajo Islands before was completely blocked at this time. Wo Chao. After realizing it, Sha Luo shouted. If Sha Luo remembers correctly, the ultimate divine sword technique should be a passive skill in a certain game, right? Sha Luo glanced at his kendo skills. The original A+ level suddenly broke through 2 small stages and reached S level kendo. Just one skill in the game allowed me to achieve so many breakthroughs. Sure enough, the skill setting of the game is unreasonable. He had already obtained 20% of the death resistance before, and now he has collected 2/5 of it. Soon he will become a true undead creature, the strongest creature in history. By then, nothing in this world will be able to restrain him. Sha Luo's eyes came to the last reward. Tamagotchi. I was actually rewarded with a pet egg. Is this a biological reward? Sha Luo also This is the first time I have received rewards other than my own strength and items. Take a look at the description above. This is a pet egg that is about to hatch. Single quote. A very simple description that doesn't even say what will be hatched. It's not like a systematic style, just throw yourself a 3-no product. However, Sha Luo was already very satisfied with being able to acquire the divine skill of the ultimate swordsmanship. He could easily master a swordsmanship and break through the realm. Sha Luo was already smiling from ear to ear. Hey, Sha Luo, hurry up. The auction is about to start. Looking at Sha Luo's silly smile, Nami covered her forehead and urged. He was used to his subordinates getting sick from time to time. Coming. Nami's urging made Sha Luo return to reality, and he stood up neatly and hugged Nami's waist. In this way, a group of more than a dozen people headed to the number 1 island of Sabayati Archipelago. Oh, looks like you're not late, just in time. Sha Luo opened the door to the auction, and the atmosphere was very exciting. The guards here are very discerning. When Sha Luo came in, he immediately greeted him and respectfully handed Sha Luo a number plate. Hey, isn't that the legendary pirate with a bounty of 600 million Baileys, Golden Lion too, Sha Luo? Why does such a character appear here? As soon as Sha Luo entered the door, several captains of the pirate group noticed him. After all, he was too conspicuous. The blonde double sword style, with so many beauties, is the only guy in the world who is interested in collecting beauties as a crew member. Is it because they are so confident in their own strength that they don't need the help of other crew members? Or for some other reason, these pirate captains don't know. What they don't know is that those women who look weak are actually strong men who can easily defeat them. So I didn't pay attention to the comments of these little Kurami, they were just new pirates. Even if the guy among them has a bounty of hundreds of millions, he only has a little over 100 million, and he has no strength to match it. However, he also scanned the scene and unexpectedly discovered the Celestial Dragon's family, the Roswald family, who appeared in the original work. Seeing the foolish eldest son of the Rothswald family, Charles Rose, Sha Luo couldn't help but think of everything he had done while watching cartoons in her previous life, and a murderous intention surged into her heart. God is really helping me, and I have met someone on my must-kill list again. What's wrong, Sha Luo? Reiju, who is more sensitive, asked softly. Although Sha Luo only released his murderous intent for a moment and then retracted it, Reiju, who was sitting next to him, still felt it. No, I just found a guy the first hate. Sha Luo shook her head so that the other party didn't need to care. Nasty guy. Reiju was a little confused, and then faintly glanced at the place where Sha Luo was looking just now. A family of celestial dragons came into view. Are these celestial dragons? Does Sha Luo have any grudges with them? Reiju thought in confusion. Why did Sha Luo, who had never had any contact with celestial dragons, hate celestial dragons so much? Is there any unknown past in Sha Luo? Thinking of this, Reiju also shook his head not to think too much. Following the high-pitched introductions of the host here, the auction items appeared one after another. Most of them are human slaves or pirates, and there are also some rare races, such as humans like the Long-Handed Clan. It's really too much. Do these guys treat people as human beings? Seeing the humans being treated like commodities, Nami said angrily. The little angel Kaya and her little sister Vivi, who had never experienced such a dangerous environment, even covered their mouths and couldn't bear to look at it. Although I had already learned about the darkness here from Sha Luo, it was still a bit unbearable to see it with my own eyes. Robin could only hold the 2 youngest group pets in his arms to comfort him. The next item for sale is our popular product. Auction item number 20 is a peerless beauty slave. Look at this miraculously balanced figure. She is the 20-year-old dancer Pacia. The guest who bids for this best product can enjoy Pacia's beautiful dance and enjoy the happiness of heaven. As soon as Disco finished speaking, someone immediately placed a bid. 8,075. 1 million. 1.1 million. Sha Luo's eyes lit up when he saw the appearance of the dancer Pacia. She is indeed a top dancer, her figure is not inferior to Nami Robin, and her appearance is also very beautiful. What, are you attracted to this dancer? Nami noticed that Sha Luo was staring straight at Pacia on the stage and lightly asked in a voice. Indeed, it's quite eye-catching. Sha Luo said without hesitation. In this regard, Nami has been convinced by him. Although she was still jealous, she couldn't bear all Sha Luo did, so she no longer stopped him from auctioning. Rather than letting such a beautiful young lady fall into the hands of those ugly nobles, it would be better to let Sha Luo rescue her. 5 million Baileys. Sha Luo raised the brand number plate in her hand and shouted loudly. Everyone present stopped and the scene fell silent. The pirate captains also looked sideways at Sha Luo. "Is this guy here to find a beautiful woman?" one of the pirate captains said somewhat speechlessly. He really couldn't understand why a womanizing guy like Sha Luo had such a high bounty. He didn't look like an ambitious pirate at all. 5 million Baileys. Is there anyone who offers a higher price? Is there anyone else? Disco shouted in a high-pitched voice, and the curvature of the corners of his mouth became wider and wider. He could see that Sha Luo seemed to really want to get this dancer, so he hinted at a few of his men in the audience, namely the dog bearers, to continue raising the price. The dog sitters in the audience also received Disco's instructions. Their facial expressions were calm, but they were already laughing in their hearts. The price of a human being is about 500,000 berries. For a beauty with special skills like this, the price can be raised several times. Now the price has actually been raised 10 times. It seems that the price can continue to rise. They can also receive some bonuses as dog caregivers. Now Disco is telling them that if they continue to raise prices, they will give up on getting higher bonuses. Sha Luo silently watched this clown-like farce. Fierce and ferocious murderous intent erupted, covering everyone present. He did not choose to use Conqueror's Haki, which would directly stun everyone, but the murderous intention was just a reminder to the Disco on the stage. Everyone present shed cold sweat, especially the Disco on stage and the pirates in the audience. Disco is the focus of Sha Luo's murderous intent, and pirates truly feels his power. Why do I feel so uncomfortable? So annoying. It's all because of that slave this morning. He actually died after less than 10 days. If that guy still has a family, I must turn his whole family into slaves. Saint Charles, who was affected by Sha Luo's murderous intention, said with an extremely irritated voice. He didn't understand what murderous intent was, he just felt that it bothered him very much. The same is true for Shalulia Palace and Saint Roswaiter beside him. Only the personal bodyguards standing guard were sweating profusely. What on earth does this guy Sha Luo, Golden Lion 2, want to do? Didn't you see the celestial dragons present? Does he still want to take action? The personal bodyguards and soldiers looked at Sha Luo in fear. But the dog carrier could no longer move. The hand that was originally going to lift the auction number plate was frozen, and his mouth was wide open but he could not make a sound. The host Disco had obviously experienced many storms. Although he was also frightened, he could not move. Asterisk 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 asterisk. I saw him quickly coming to the trading desk, and then hitting it hard with a hammer. 5 million deal. The dancer Pacia, the auction item number 20, belongs to the distinguished guest No. 96. As soon as the words were spoken, the murderous intention faded away like a tide, and everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Golden Lion 2. This kind of murderous intention is like facing Doflamingo, he is really an unfathomable man. Disco secretly thought that the murderous intention just now gave him the same feeling as facing Doflamingo. He also instantly understood the meaning of the other party's move and told himself not to make any small moves. If he continued, he might really die. So there was a scene where the countdown was not directly finalized. According to the plot, Pacia should have gone to the auction after the supernovas gathered on the island. Now that I came to the auction early, it must be that the prices raised by those dog carriers were too high and no one bought it, which caused Disco to have to resell it after several auctions. Sha Luo snapped her fingers, then ticked downwards, and Disco instantly understood what he meant. At Sha Luo's signal, the dancer Pacia was not taken back to the backstage, but was sent to Sha Luo from the side. Although he hasn't paid yet, Disco doesn't dare to disobey this big pirate. Pacia was already in tears. She didn't know what kind of life the future would be like. Avertisement. From the moment she stepped onto the auction stage, she knew that her previous free life had left her. Quote. The ashen-faced Pacia couldn't help but murmured to herself when she saw Sha Luo for the first time. 0. She originally thought that the person who photographed her would be some kind of aristocratic gentleman, who was ugly and fat, but after seeing Sha Luo, a bright light rose in her heart. Compared with those ugly and fat aristocratic lords, Sha Luo's appearance is more in line with Pacia's aesthetics. Are these women too? Then Pacia also noticed that the girls around Sha Luo did not have the same shackles on their necks as her own. But these beautiful women should all belong to this handsome blonde guy, right? Thinking of this, Paria ignited hope. If it was as she guessed, then Sha Luo's character should not be a cruel person. Go down, you. Sit here. Sha Luo ordered several soldiers at the auction to step back, and then asked Pacia to sit on his lap. So, Pacia sat tremblingly on Sha Luo's lap. This was her first time sitting on a man's body, so she was a little nervous and trembling. Sha Luo gently stroked the cuffs around her neck, using armament hockey's internal destruction skills. Click. There was a crisp sound. The cuffs were released with a sound. Sha Luo dropped it on the ground. It was uncomfortable to hold this thing in my arms, so Sha Luo casually untied it, and then held Pacia in her arms. Then Sha Luo felt a strange movement in her waist. She turned around and saw Nami's little mouth raised. Sha Luo grinned and hugged the jealous Nami next to her with her other hand. Nami's strength was just like a massage, making herself feel numb and numb without causing any harm to herself. When Sha Luo unlocked the handcuffs, Paxia's heart trembled, and then she seemed to. It was as if the defense had been broken, gushing out like water. She put her hands around Sha Luo's neck, leaned her head on his chest, and her whole body twitched constantly. Although silent, the other women could tell that Pacia was crying bitterly at this time. Nami also felt sorry for Pacia's experience. He was not jealous for a while, but patted the other person's back and comforted him. Don't worry, although our captain is a bad guy, he is not an evil person. You can live with us from now on. Nami's comforting words fell on Paria's ears, which touched her deeply. Sure enough, he was right. If he followed this blonde boy, at least he would not live a hellish life. This is much better than being bought by those noble lords. Today is my unfortunate day, but it is also my lucky day. Thanks. Pacia showed her tear-stained cheeks and nodded towards Nami, who smiled back at her. After all, she is the little sister who will help her share the firepower in the future. Nami's move is also to allow the other party to quickly adapt to the team. At the same time, it also increases the goodwill towards the team. After that, Sha Luo's side calmed down again. The auction below was still going on enthusiastically, and one human being was pulled onto the stage one after another. There were some women of special races among them, but they looked so ugly that Sha Luo didn't like them, so she didn't take any pictures. Strong men are more popular, especially pirates with skills, or pirate captains are the most popular. Nobles often have special tastes, and both male and female aristocrats have their taste buds. Next is the finale of our auction. Everyone here knows that although we are a human auction here, we will still auction if there are valuable and precious things. The grand finale product this time is the most precious treasure in the sea. An unknown devil fruit. Finally, when the last auction item came, the atmosphere at the scene reached its peak, and everyone cheered. These people had forgotten the fear that Sha Luo had just brought to them, and just looked excitedly at the little cart that the auctioneer pushed up. There is a strange-shaped fruit with strange patterns placed on it. Whoa, is this the devil fruit? This is the first time I have seen it. It is a secret treasure on the sea. It is said that as long as you eat it, you can gain extremely powerful power. Some of the people who saw the real devil fruit for the first time let out excited shouts. They have seen demon fruit power, but this is the first time they have seen devil fruit that has not been eaten. Finally, it's time for the finale, devil fruit. The captains of the pirate group also stared at the devil fruit on the stage with their eyes wide open. They came to this auction not only to see if they could recruit capable people to the ship, but also because of the devil fruit. Most pirate ship captains have eaten devil fruit, but in order to increase the strength of their pirate group, they will still buy the fruit for their crew members to eat. Sha Luo looked at the devil fruit on the stage and initially judged that it was a devil fruit from Paramecia. Because it doesn't have Zone's features, it doesn't look like Logia's either. So Sha Luo took out his devil fruit illustrated book and flipped through it. The starting price of this unknown devil fruit is 100 million belly. As Disco's words fell, the scene immediately became noisy. 120 million Baileys. 140 million Baileys. 150 billion belly. Soon, due to the constant competition from the captains of the pirate group, the ordinary nobles had withdrawn, and the price of devil fruit had reached 2 or 3 liters per square Bailey. Oh, found it. Sha Luo's voice came. Paramecia shock fruit can emit a powerful shock wave to repel enemies. It seems to be a very good ability. It can launch powerful impacts. The wave can even impact human internal organs. Sha Luo looked at the description of the fruit's abilities in the illustrated book and admired it. This ability is somewhat similar to Bear Blast and Sengoku's Big Buddha Blast developed by Bear. But it's not exactly like the energy shock waves developed by these two fruits, which can hit the inside. Bear Impact and Big Buddha shock waves start to impact and destroy from the outside, and as the impact fruit development progresses, the impact force will be stronger. The upper limit of this Paramecia fruit is very good, and Sha Luo also plans to win this fruit. 250 million Baileys. As the captain of a pirate group finished speaking, the atmosphere gradually became tense. There were only 3 or 4 pirates with a bounty of over 100 million left on the scene who were still bidding. The others who were a little weaker did not dare to speak out because the price was beyond what they could bear. What, are these monkeys still fighting for each other? Charos picked his nose, then stretched out his hand from under the fish tank and rubbed it against the bodyguard beside him. The bodyguard stood guard with a serious expression, not paying any attention to Charles's movements. 300 million Baileys, Charles said calmly. The scene fell silent. These celestial dragons. The pirate captains gritted their teeth and cursed secretly. If celestial dragons takes action, they will not be able to compete. If you dare to bid, you may be retaliated by the celestial dragons later, and Admiral may come over by then. They will not risk their bright future for a devil fruit. Charos, you spent money indiscriminately again. It's just a devil fruit. Is it worth spending so much money on it? Roswad said calmly. Well, that slave lost in the arena before. Now I am in urgent need of a powerful slave. Just some time ago, I bought a pirate with a bounty of over 100 million. If I let him eat this fruit, I can get a powerful slave, ha ha ha. Quote. Charos laughed as if he had a chance to win. In his eyes, these untouchables would not dare to collide with him. As long as he opened his mouth, no one would dare to compete with him. Well, it's up to you. Rosward ignored him after hearing his reason. Money is meaningless in the eyes of celestial dragons, and a large amount of heavenly gold is distributed every year. Ah, there is no sound in the entire venue. Let me ask, are there more than 300 million guests? After experiencing the storm, Disco came back to his senses and returned to his own job in an instant. Just when he was about to knock down the hammer in his hand. 350 million Baileys. Sha Luo's faint voice spread throughout the silent venue. Kilogram. Everyone at the scene was stunned, staring at Sha Luo's position in stunned silence. Even Disco stopped banging the hammer and looked at Sha Mai in shock. 350 million belly. Guest number 96 bids 350 million belly. Is there anyone else who offers a higher price? Disco's tone was trembling and he stammered. What, which guy actually dares to bid? Charos stood up angrily, glanced constantly, and then turned to Sha Luo at the top. Is this the guy who made the bid? Humph, 400 million Baileys. Charos called out the price again. After all, the one with the highest auction price wins. But this guy who disobeyed me must make him look good in the future. 450 million Baileys. Sha Luo said calmly. Charles's expression changed greatly. This guy actually dared to make a bid. It seemed like he was risking his life. He randomly pulled out the golden gun from his waist and hit Sha Luo. Ah, the scene was in panic, and the women had screamed and closed their eyes to avoid watching this brutal scene. Bang! The bullet accurately hit Sha Luo's head, but bounced away without even breaking the skin. Tisk, is this guy a user with the ability of the lucky fruit? He can hit it from such a long distance, it's really ridiculous. Sha Luo clicked her tongue and looked at Charles with serious eyes. The anger in my heart is already boiling. Ah, did you miss it? Forget it. You guys, catch the guy above, I will make him my slave. Seeing that Sha Luo didn't react at all, Charles, who thought he had missed, put down his pistol, and then ordered his bodyguards to go up and catch Sha Luo. Yes, Lord Sol Razan. The bodyguard was sweating profusely and rushed towards Sha Luo. They were betting that Sha Luo would not dare to take action against Saint Charles. Even if he and others could not defeat him, he would still have to obey Saint Charles' orders. Sha Luo, do we want to retreat? Anyway, you have already bought Pacia, and our plan to snatch the devil fruit away will be completed without spending any money. Karina looked at the furious Charros and said with a serious expression. Even she has heard of the name celestial dragons, and if you mess up here, you will get into big trouble. But she wasn't afraid, she just wanted to cause as little trouble as possible. Captain Sha Luo, I think Nami is right. It's better for us to leave as soon as possible. If something unexpected happens, we may be pursued by Admiral. Khalifa also came to Sha Luo nervously. She was once a world political leader. CP9 of the government, no one understands the troublesomeness of these celestial dragons better than her. Well, don't be nervous, it's just celestial dragons. What can they do to me even if Marine Admiral comes? Sha Luo patted the secretary's big butt and told her not to be nervous while sitting where Nami had just been. Then his pupils shrank, and the powerful conqueror's haki accurately hit all the bodyguards who rushed forward. These little Karami instantly rolled their eyes and fell down. What's going on? The audience looked at these fallen bodyguards in surprise, obviously not knowing what had just happened. The legendary power. Some captains of the pirate group seemed to recognize the power used by Sha Luo, showing shock in their eyes. It's not good. If you continue to stay here, you may get into trouble. This guy is really just like the rumors. Not only does he like beauty, but he is also a lunatic. You can tell by doing something like destroying the Marine Ennie's lobby. This guy is a complete terrorist. Hey, we're retreating. It's not a good time to stay here for a long time. All the pirate groups spoke out one after another and ordered their men to leave quickly. If they continue to watch, they will probably be in trouble. Why did these losers suddenly fall down? Charros obviously didn't know what happened and shouted. Then he looked at Sha Luo with a scrutinizing gaze, and suddenly he noticed that the eyes of all the beauties around Sha Luo were about to pop out. So many beauties. I want to take them all home as my wives. Charros said in a happy tone, raising his feet left and right and dancing happily. Tisk tisk. Veins appeared on Sha Luo's forehead. This reckless celestial dragons dared to target his crew. This move made him unable to bear it anymore. Call out. Sha Luo disappeared from the place in an instant, and then appeared in front of Charlos. Charros felt his eyes go dark, and suddenly a figure stood in front of him. When did you? That look in your eyes really make me so angry. Kneel down. Looking up, Sha Luo was looking at him with a look that looked like trash, which instantly made him angry. Charles's eyes twitched and veins popped out, and he shouted. Sha Luo slowly raised his fist. Hey, what does that guy from Golden Lion 2 want to do? Seriously, does he want to take action against the celestial dragons? The captain of the pirate group who had not completely exited looked at Sha Luo in the field with shocked eyes and exclaimed. Amid the horrified looks of everyone, Sha Luo's fist hit Charros in the face. Boom! Charros' cheek hit the ground and bounced up again, and then another huge impact dented him in the ground. Everyone at the scene watched this scene with their mouths wide open. After 3 seconds of silence, countless screams sounded. The nobles and businessmen began to flee one after another, and they all swarmed towards the gate of the venue. Everyone was pushing and chasing each other, and some guys who were walking a little slower were pushed to the ground. Then countless people trampled over his body, leaving only a pile of trampled rotten flesh. Charros, Brother Charles Ross, Rosswad and Shalulia exclaimed. Even my father has never beaten Brother Charlos, but you actually. You need to look at Yoya in shock. Originally, she saw that Sha Luo had a very handsome face, and planned to ask Charros to give this human to her. Unexpectedly, the other party dared to take action against his eldest brother. Asshole, you low-class pariah dare to hit my son. I want you to know. What will be the consequences of attacking the descendants of the creator of this world? Roswad made an angry noise and started shooting at Sha Luo with the staff gun. This distance can be easily hit even without aiming. Clang clang clang. The bullet hit Sha Luo's body with a steel-like sound. Sha Luo ignored him, but looked at his fist in confusion. Is this guy's face really the shield of celestial dragons? If I had punched him, he would still be alive. Although he didn't use all his strength in the punch he just punched, his strange strength is no joke. Such a simple punch can easily create a big hole in the ground. Charo's lying in the pit is the best proof, but even such a punch failed to kill him. This couldn't help but remind Sha Luo of the rumor in her previous life, the false celestial dragons. Shield CPO, the face of the true shield of celestial dragons, Charos. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Lion Majesty _ Earth Coiling. It's been a long time since I used Lion Fruit's ability. A huge lion condensed into one. The remaining two celestial dragons opened their mouths wide and looked at the 0.0 lion head with pale faces. Then the lion head pounced directly towards Charos in the pit. The violent impact flooded the crater. But it wasn't over yet. The lion head kept walking through the underground with Charo's body, and the mud continued to wear down Charo's body. He woke up in pain and wanted to scream, but the mud had filled his mouth, and no sound could be heard underground. Later, under the control of Sha Luo, Charos's body was ground into powder by the soil and integrated into the ground. Not even a trace of residue could be seen at the scene. The celestial dragons, which symbolize the power at the top of the world, perished in the hands of Sha Luo. Brother Charles Ross. Sha Changlia's face was pale and her eyes were dull. This scene really overturned her long-held view of the world. She never thought that anyone would dare to challenge the authority of the celestial dragons. Even killing the celestial dragons who are descendants of the Creator. Next, it's you. After dealing with Charos, Sha Luo turned to look at the remaining two celestial dragons. Woo! Shalulia let out a nervous whimper and took a few steps back, while Roswad backed away in fear. Sha Luo took a step forward. Ah! Don't kill me. I am celestial dragons. A descendant of the Creator of the world, you can't kill me. Sha Shilia was so scared that the master sat on the ground and shouted. She didn't realize how ridiculous what she said was. Sha Luo had just killed a being like her. How could he compromise her identity if he really wanted to attack her? Don't worry, I won't kill you yet. Raising celestial dragons seems quite interesting. Sha Luo squatted in front of her and crushed the fish tank, grabbed her face, and said with a smile. Don't be so arrogant, you low-class pariah, and dare to harm the celestial dragons. The Marine Admiral will arrive soon, and you will die by then. Roswad was much tougher. Even if Sha Luo killed his son, he would not break down and cry after being threatened like Sha Lulia. Marine Admiral, I haven't seen Aokiji for a long time. He took great care of me 2 years ago. If Aokiji is here this time, I would like to thank him very much. Facing his threat, Sha Luo said with great interest, showing no fear of Marine Admiral. The world government will not let you go. Just wait for me. Seeing that moving out of Marine Admiral did not threaten the other party, Rosward had no choice but to say harsh words and then ran away in panic, not even caring about his own daughter. But how could Sha Luo let him go? Call out, hey, where are you going? I never said I would let you go. Sha Luo arrived in front of Roswald in an instant and looked at him playfully. Roswald was sweating profusely. There was no way to escape, and he couldn't beat the opponent again and again. What should he do now? Then his vision went dark, and Sha Luo's fist enlarged in his eyes. Bang! Sha Luo punched Roswald in the face, causing him to fall to the ground, but he was not killed, just knocked unconscious. Father! When Sha Lulia saw that her father had also been brutally murdered, she couldn't help but yell again. Sha Luo didn't care how she shouted. He casually grabbed Roswald's ankle and dragged him like a dead dog. Because the fish tank was broken, Roswald, who was face down, was constantly hit at the foot of the stairs while being dragged by Sha Luo. Without the shame of his son's celestial dragon's shield, Roswald was hit with blood all over his face. Sha Lulia sat there in a daze. She had never encountered such a bad incident before, and she was already a little at a loss. Hey, woman over there, do you want to die here? Follow me quickly. Seeing Sha Lulia behind her sitting there blankly, Sha Luo frowned and shouted 24 times. This woman really has no eyesight. Didn't she see that she was leaving? Didn't she follow? Go on, do you want to knock her out and drag her away? Ah, yes. Shalulia was awakened by the sound, screamed and responded immediately. At this time, her fear of Sha Luo has reached the extreme. No matter how noble and arrogant the celestial dragons are, they will be afraid of death. She quickly stood up and trotted to catch up, lowering her head and following behind Sha Luo. From time to time, her eyes fell on Roswade, who was being dragged by Sha Luo. She bit her lower lip and wanted to cry, but she didn't dare. She was afraid that this move would make Sha Luo unhappy, and that she would end up like her father and brother. Sha Luo looked at Sha Lulia and nodded with satisfaction. Very good, now the emotions are dominated by fear. After a little training, a perfect celestial dragon's slave will be completed. Sha Luo secretly thought that the idea of raising celestial dragons in captivity was not just a joke. The celestial dragons, who were once aloof and dominated everything, are now reduced to slaves and dominated by others. This can be regarded as Sha Luo's bad taste, and he also wanted to see how the 5 old men from Marine and World Government would react after learning that he had kept celestial dragons in captivity. It's really exciting. Thinking of this, Sha Luo grinned. I messed up. Seeing what Sha Luo did just now, Nami and Karina slapped their foreheads and said helplessly. Ha ha ha, I'm sorry, what this fat guy said just now made me very angry. Even if it's celestial dragons, I won't let him go. Sha Luo laughed heartily and touched the back of his head with his right hand. The girls on the boat recalled what Charles Luo's had just said, and then Sha Luo's attitude changed instantly, and she immediately crushed him into pieces in a rage. Even the celestial dragons, as long as they dare to take advantage of them, Sha Luo will take action without hesitation. This cherished feeling made them feel a little warm in their hearts. Well, after all, you are the captain, we will abide by your decision, no need to apologize. That's right, even if we face Marine Admiral, we don't have to be afraid with our current strength. Nami and Karina both stepped forward and hugged Sha Luo, rubbing their cheeks against Sha Luo's chest, and their expressions became a little blocked. Sha Luo casually threw the dead dog he was dragging on the ground, then hugged the 2 women and laughed. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Bang. What did you say? Sengoku slammed his fist on the table with a shocked expression on his face. Marshal Sengoku. According to information that was just placed in the population black market, no, it was the Marines inside the Occupational Security Agency who sent information that, Golden Lion 2, Sha Luo had a conflict with the Celestial Dragon's Roswald family at the scene. Saint Charlos was killed by Sha Luo on the spot, and all the bodyguards in the venue were instantly killed. The soldiers in the venue have already notified the Vice Admiral stationed at Sabayati Archipelago to come and contain him. 1. Furthermore, Saint Roswader and Shalulia Palace are still present at the scene. They are probably the hostages of the other party now. This is an unprecedented and vicious incident. The communications soldier who was responsible for delivering intelligence said to Sengoku respectfully. However, from his slightly nervous tone, it is not difficult to tell that he was also shocked by what Sha Luo did. What does this Sha Luo want to do? Aren't you already planning to accept Marine's recruitment to become a Shichibukai? But he did such troublesome things at such a critical moment. Sengoku roared angrily and banged the table angrily again. Obviously, what Sha Luo did caused him a lot of trouble. 1 celestial dragons died, and there are 2 celestial dragons as hostages. This matter is considered a big deal. If he doesn't handle it well, it will be hard to explain to the 5 old men of world government. Suck slip. Sha Luo is really brave to actually dare to take action against the world's nobles, but we cannot remain indifferent, Mr. Sengoku. Kizaru took a sip of tea with a satisfied look on his face, and then spoke calmly. The sunglasses on his face couldn't tell the look in his eyes, but his tone was as if the death of the world's nobles was of no importance to him. However, as his current target, something happened to the celestial dragons, and he had to do nothing. Kizaru. Sengoku turned to look at Kizaru. Well, even though I just came back from the mission and didn't have any rest, I ran into trouble like this. But let me go out this time and let me meet this super newcomer who became famous 2 years ago. I have heard a lot of rumors about him. A pirate group whose members are all beauties, and they even managed to steal the princesses of Alabasta and Germa Kingdom. They are really enviable guys. Kizaru slowly stood up and walked towards the door. Wait, Kizaru, Sengoku suddenly shouted loudly. Is there anything else, Mr. Sengoku? Kizaru turned his head and asked in confusion. In this mission, we must save the lives of the 2 celestial dragons. Let's put aside the pursuit of Sha Luo for now. His strength is no longer what it was 2 years ago. Pursuing the opponent rashly may anger him. If the 2 celestial dragons suffer any harm, we will tell the world government. Sengoku said with a serious face. Clear. Kizaru was a little surprised. He didn't expect Sengoku to have such a high opinion of Sha Luo, even though he knew that Sha Luo destroyed Eni's lobby. But after all, they just defeated some weaklings. Those people in CP9 are indeed weak in his eyes. But Sengoku's serious tone made him put away his contempt and become less lazy than he was at first. After sending the 2 celestial dragons to a safe place and arresting the Golden Lion 2 group, I will send troops to reinforce you. Sengoku spoke again, and Kizaru shook his hand to indicate that he understood, and then walked out of the door without looking back. After Kizaru left, Sengoku asked the communications soldier next to him anxiously. Still can't contact that guy Garp. Hi, Vice Admiral Garp has been missing since leaving Naval Headquarters this morning, and there was no response when contacted by phone. Upon hearing Sengoku's inquiry, the signal soldier hurriedly told the information he knew. Bang! This guy Garp, why is he nowhere to be seen at such a critical time? This is already the 3rd time he has knocked on the table today. It's okay to forget that this old guy is unreliable at ordinary times, but at such a critical moment, he still loses control. Immediately send troops out to find Vice Admiral Garp. Make sure he goes to Sabayati Archipelago immediately for support, and at the same time notify the nearby elite Vice Admiral who is on duty. Yes. After receiving the order, the Marine saluted Sengoku and then ran out of the office. Golden Lion 2 Sha Luo, causing all these troubles one after another. With Sengoku's somewhat resentful voice, the office returned to calm again. The other side, Sha Luo held the 2 sweethearted girls in her arms for a while. What should we do now? The Marines are probably surrounded outside, and the Admiral will be coming to the island soon. Do you want to go directly back to the ship and fly to the New World? Reiju, the calmest among the girls, asked. Well, don't be so anxious, the fun has just begun. Sha Luo smiled mysteriously, and he suddenly thought of a good idea. Since we want to challenge the authority of the world government, we should use a louder voice. What bad ideas have you prepared? Nami asked curiously. Well, you will find out later. Before that, Nami, please get your hands on the target this time and talk about it. Sha Luo did not tell her thoughts, but kept a sense of mystery. Then she pointed at the devil fruit on the stage and said to Nami. Understood. Nami understood after seeing devil fruit, smiled playfully at Sha Luo, and instantly turned into thunder and lightning and disappeared. Then he glanced at Disco lying on the ground. When Sha Luo used Conqueror's Haki just now, he also covered this guy. There are also some guards at the auction who are currently unconscious. Nami looked at the Disco on the ground with disgust. It was this guy who sold humans like commodities. Nami, who had been bullied by the evil dragon, was very unhappy with the auction of humans. Without thinking, he kicked the guy away. The latter flew up like a ball, then broke through the roof and flew into the distance. With the physique of an ordinary person, it is impossible for the other party to survive. After doing this, Nami felt very happy, as she had gotten rid of a big pest for mankind. But when I thought of the girls I saw being auctioned at the previous auction, I couldn't help but feel a pity in my heart. Following the perception of the radio waves, he once again transformed into thunder and lightning and teleported to the cage where the slaves were held. Where is Nami going? Karina asked curiously. Well, I guess I feel sorry for those slaves just now, so I plan to release them. Sha Luo said disapprovingly. That's it. Karina nodded. When Nami came to the cage where the slaves were held, they didn't know what was happening outside. The venue was noisy. After finding the key to unlock the cuffs from the guard, Nami threw it directly into the cage. Miss, what happened outside? Why did all the guards faint? A maid from Madara who looked a little cute and had some sparrows on her face asked Nami tremblingly. You don't need to worry about this. Now you are free. When you get out of here, go back to your hometown. Don't get caught again. Nami shook his hand without further explanation, and simply asked the other party to open the lock and escape. Hey, pirates over there, it shouldn't be a problem for you to escort these ladies out of Sabayati Archipelago, right? Ah, no problem, we'll take care of it. Nami's question surprised these pirates, but they still assured Nami by patting their chests. Although they are pirates, they are also passionate men. Faced with their saviors, of course they are extremely grateful and agree to Nami's request without hesitation. Seeing this, Nami nodded and immediately wanted to leave. Wait, benefactor, can you leave your name? One day we will repay your kindness. If you can use us in the future, please feel free to give us your orders. Seeing that Nami wanted to leave, a pirate leader immediately called out to Nami. Then he knelt down and kowtowed to Nami with a serious expression. This narrow escape allowed them to see the reality clearly. It was better to forget about pirates and so on. Their lack of strength could not support the new world, but if their benefactor needed them, they will still gather together to help their benefactors. Nami felt a little embarrassed when she saw such serious people, and after thinking for a while, she answered. My name is Nami, and I am the navigator of the New Sky Pirates. If I repay you, forget it. Your strength is too weak, so let's just leave. Although it was very shocking, Nami told the truth. After speaking, he transformed into thunder and lightning and disappeared from the backcourt. Thank you Nami-san for saving your life. Thank you very much. Although there was no one left, the pirates still knelt on the ground, knocked hard again, and shouted loudly. Sha Luo did not name his pirate group, but since he intends to inherit the legacy of Golden Lion, the name of the pirate group will temporarily follow the pirate group of the Golden Lion period. The next second, Nami returned to Sha Luo and threw devil fruit directly to the opponent. Feeling good, seeing the joy on Nami's face, Sha Luo smiled. Sorry, it took a while, but it was really cool after beating that guy away. Nami replied with a smile. Now that you feel comfortable, let's go. The marine guys outside are probably waiting impatiently. Seeing that Nami's mood improved, Sha Luo also smiled and nodded. Sha Luo continued to drag Roswald, who was like a dead dog. Walking out of the gate of the human auction, a large number of marines have gathered and surrounded them. Countless guns and artillery were aimed in the direction of the gate. Seeing Sha Luo and others walking out, Lu Shu looked at him nervously, especially when he saw clearly that the other party was dragging a celestial dragons in his hand, which made him even more nervous. Don't shoot casually. They have celestial dragons as hostages. Don't hurt the celestial dragons. Lu Shu immediately shouted to his soldiers, fearing that some soldiers would be too nervous and fire and shoot the celestial dragons. It will be even more troublesome if he doesn't die in the hands of Sha Luo, but in the hands of their marine. The soldiers who received the order swallowed their saliva and tightened their fingers on the trigger, but did not dare to move. Your Excellency Sha Luo, do you know what you have done? You can clearly communicate with us and accept Shichibukai's recruitment. With the protection of the world government, the celestial dragons cannot attack you at will, so why do they do such a vicious act? Lu Shu asked with a serious expression and some confusion. He knew that he was no match for Sha Luo, and his most important task now was to delay the opponent and wait for Admiral to arrive to save the celestial dragons in the opponent's hands. Haha, are you stalling for time? But it doesn't matter, it will be interesting when Admiral comes. And Sha Luo also saw the other party's purpose, but he didn't care. Lion fruit allows him to come and go freely, so what if he is surrounded by admirals? Almost everyone on his ship has the ability to fly. Under his own cover, it is very simple to return to the Longyu. Well, Lu Shu Vice Admiral, I'm very curious, who is the admiral here this time? Or are the three admirals sent together? Sha Luo asked. Seeing that Sha Luo is very casual, even if the three admirals are dispatched, they are not afraid of danger. Has Sha Luo's strength become so powerful? Can she compete with three admirals at the same time? Lu Shu thought secretly. If you don't want to say it, forget it, then just let me wait here, but I guess Kizaru should be the first to arrive. After all, Sparkling Fruit's ability is really fast. Quote. Sha Luo was not in a hurry and stood there waiting. Suddenly, Shaluo's eyes looked at the person hiding in a corner outside Marine's circle, and the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up. No matter when and where, there will always be journalists who are not afraid of life and death and will be on the front lines. The first to report on the battle. Similarly, there are also members of the World Economic News Agency in Sabayati Archipelago. And he came here after the First World notified President Morgans of the big news here. Since Marine had cleared this place, they could only hide in the dark and take pictures of everything here. In the picture, Sha Luo is dragging the world noble celestial dragon's Roswald, whose face has been bruised and bloody. What's even more unbelievable is that after Sha Luo threw the person to the ground, he stepped on celestial dragon's back with his foot. The celestial dragons, who are fighting for world power, are being stepped on. Big news. Big news like never before. The members of the news agency showed ecstatic expressions and kept taking pictures of Sha Luo's hockey appearance. He knew that after this incident, if Sha Luo was still alive, Yinhai would be in turmoil because of it. Not long after, a golden figure quickly appeared in the field. None other than Marine Admiral Kizaru. After leaving Naval Headquarters Marineford, Kizaru did not follow his own fleet, but took the lead in continuously accelerating flight with the ability of sparkling fruit. We arrived at the Sabayati Archipelago site in a very short time. Oh Duo, you are the rumored Golden Lion too. Sha Luo, you are really young and promising. Kizaru did not act rashly after arriving at the scene, but first greeted Sha Luo. Haha, Marine Admiral Kizaru, sparkling fruit's ability is truly well deserved. You must have worked really hard to get here from Marineford in such a short time. Sha Luo also greeted Kaido in a very relaxed and casual manner as if greeting an old friend. After talking about it, I felt sorry for Kizaru. Well, it's not like you've caused such a big trouble, little brother Sha Luo. I just came back from a mission and haven't rested yet. Mr. Sengoku is very angry. Kizaru looked at Sha Luo with resentful eyes, but Sha Luo couldn't see clearly behind her sunglasses. However, the tone of his speech was casual, as if he and Sha Luo were really old friends for many years. Sha Luo chuckled and stopped talking. Sadi, brother Sha Luo, what are you going to do to let Saint Roswader and Shalulia Palace go? If you let them go now, I can guarantee that I won't chase you away. Kizaru asked tentatively. You know, I am Lion Fruit's ability user. If I want to escape, there is no need to wait for you to arrive, Sha Luo said with a smile. Then, brother Sha Luo, do you have any requirements? As long as we can let the two celestial dragons go, we can discuss it. Kizaru scratched the back of his head in distress, wondering what else Sha Luo wanted. If he becomes a Shichibukai, Mr. Sengoku can agree to his request and solve the celestial dragon's troubles. No, Sha Luo shook her head and smiled. Then what is your purpose? Now Kizaru didn't understand even more. He scratched his head and couldn't figure out what Sha Luo wanted. That's enough. Marine Admiral, I order you to rescue me and my father quickly. Then kill this despicable monkey for me. Sha Lulia, who had always been behind Sha Luo, couldn't stand it anymore. The arrival of Marine Admiral dispelled the fear that Sha Luo had brought to her. She knew the strength of Marine Admiral, but what she didn't understand was the strength of Sha Luo. She only thought that Sha Luo was just a little pirate and would be killed instantly when facing Kizaru. Shalulia felt that she had regained the initiative and immediately issued an order to Kizaru. This pig teammate. Kizaru could not help but curse secretly at this moment. Things are already very troublesome, and now she has to make trouble for herself. Does she still want to live? Do you think you will be safe if Marine Admiral comes? Then let me tell you, even if Marine Admiral comes, I can't protect you, I said so. Sha Luo ignored Shalulia behind him, but grabbed Roswad's head on the ground, and then lifted him up. Hey, brother Sha Luo, don't get excited, everything can be discussed. Seeing this scene, even Kizaru couldn't help but break into a cold sweat and raised his hands to signal the other party not to get excited. At this point Kizaru also lost his initial composure. Whether the character picture can be released depends entirely on God's will. Kizaru's eyes were scanning left and right, his head rapidly thinking about how to save the two celestial dragons from Sha Luo. According to the information in the intelligence, Sha Luo's team has a barrier fruit user. If he cannot obtain it immediately, there will be no further opportunities. Just when he was planning to select a weaker-looking girl to help as a hostage. Click click click. Ooh. As Sha Luo's palm tightened, the strong force made Roswad's skull crack, and the person woke up from the pain. What happened? Why does my head hurt so much? My face hurts so much. Roswald's wails continued. Sha Lulia had covered her mouth in shock, and her tears could not stop flowing down. But the next second she remembered that Marine Admiral was here, so she shouted anxiously. Hey, aren't you Marine Admiral? Please save my father. Shalulia's shouting gave Kizaru a headache in his thoughts. At this point, he had no choice but to force himself. If Sha Luo heard celestial dragons in front of him like this, it would be difficult to deal with it afterwards. Kizaru quietly glanced at Kaya, who was inconspicuous among the crowd. It is said that the girl was the first one Sha Luo tied onto the boat, and she was a frail and sickly girl. Sha Luo loves her very much, so Kizaru targets this girl. The next moment, Kizaru turned into light and rushed straight towards Kaya. Call out. When they were 5 meters away from Sha Luo and the others, a bolt of lightning quickly rushed towards the light of Kizaru's incarnation, and the thunder blocked the progress of the light. From Kizaru's perspective, a thin leg appeared in front of his eyes. This familiar feeling. Bang! Kizaru immediately raised his hand to block the blow, and the light refocused into a human form, and electric current filled the surface of his body. What do you want to do to our ship's doctor? Do you think we don't exist? The lightning gathered into Nami's appearance, and then Nami's somewhat confident and high-pitched voice came out. Oh, are you a thunder fruit user? It's so scary, I almost missed it with that kick just now. Kizaru cautiously took a small step back, and then came his classic teasing words. However, he always felt that Nami's kick just now was like his own light-speed kick, and it could also add the impact of lightning and electricity to the kick. Haha, it's a pity that I couldn't kick away a guy like you who wants to be our group favorite. Nami stood in front of Sha Luo and others, her clothes had been changed into a futuristic combat uniform. As early as Sha Luo took action, Nami had already activated the battle suit, and then saw through the trajectory of Kizaru's intended attack and intercepted it. Nami, who has turned on the battle suit state, has been able to briefly intercept Admiral's attack at this time, and her current strength can compete with the Emperor's lieutenants without falling behind. With the ability of Thunder Fruit, you can even easily play with 3 disaster characters like Jack, always activating the teleportation of thunder and lightning to release God's judgment. But if you want to fight against Admiral-level people, Nami will gradually fall into a disadvantage over time. Nami's current endurance is not as strong as these monsters. Karina also slowly put away her hand to release the barrier. Even if Nami didn't take action just now, she would release the barrier protection at an extremely fast speed. Kizaru's light cannot penetrate the barrier, and will eventually hit the barrier head-on. Above. The next second, the girls activated their bracelets one after another, and futuristic technological battle suits emerged on their bodies. Now that Kizaru has taken action, they will use their strongest forms to face him. Even Kaya and Nokigao, who don't like fighting very much, are ready to fight. Oh, the technology of Germa Kingdom. What a handsome battle suit. Has Germa, who is a member of the world government, defected to the pirates? Kizaru looked at Reiju. His tone was a little confused, but it also sounded like he was questioning Reiju. Well, after all, as Princess Germa, I was tied to Captain Sha Luo's ship. My father had no choice but to obey Captain Sha Luo's order. Moreover, Captain Sha Luo also gave me incurable poison so that I could not leave. As for this ship, there is nothing we can do about it. Reiju had a gentle smile on his face and spoke words that seemed both true and false. Things come from trade, and as for poison, Reiju felt that Sha Luo really poured a lot of it into her. Oh, I see. It's such a convenient poison. It can easily prevent even the princesses of a country from escaping from your clutches. Brother Sha Luo, can you give me some too? Kizaru said with an envious tone as if he already understood. But what he said made Sha Luo's head full of black lines. Ha 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 ha. The girls covered their mouths and snickered. This made Kizaru confused. Did he say something wrong? Kizaru, the old salted fish who clocks in at work, is obviously still a virgin and doesn't quite understand what it means. But it was not difficult to tell that there was a secret code that he didn't know, so he shook his head and simply changed the subject. Well, let's get back to the topic. Let's go back to the topic. Okay, Brother Sha Luo, how can you let these two celestial dragons go? If you continue to squeeze it, the Saint of Roswade in your hand will be crushed, and the world government will not let you go easily. Quote. Kizaru pointed at Roswad in Sha Luo's hand, who was so pinched that he could not speak and could only whimper. Haha, it's just world government. It's like if I let these two celestial dragons go, you won't hunt me down. You know, I killed one before. But let me be honest with you, I had no intention of letting them go from the beginning. Sha Luo showed a ferocious smile. But these words fell in the ears of everyone present like thunder roaring in their ears, and everyone present fell silent in an instant. What do you mean? Kizaru lowered his head slightly, and the light reflected on the lenses could not see his eyes. He said lightly. The literal meaning is just fake. The celestial dragons, the world's nobles, have stood at the apex of power in this world for too long. The power has corrupted the powerful genes and power left by their ancestors, allowing such a group of pigs to standing overhead just makes me uncomfortable. Quote. I, Sha Luo, hereby swear to overthrow the world government, and then rule the entire world and become the king of the world. Sha Luo grinned, her expression gradually becoming arrogant. Powerful aura rushed out of his body, and Sha Luo's conqueror's haki increased again, breaking through to the level of S. The aura has already entered the footsteps of those who are at the top of the world. And this guy's head is my declaration of war against you, Marine, and the world government. As Sha Luo spoke, Sha Luo's palms tightened. In the shocked eyes of everyone, the powerful force directly crushed Roswade's head. The headless Roswad's body fell to the ground, his fingers twitching continuously, as if he was struggling, but it was no longer effective. The scene was deathly silent. It took several seconds for everyone to react. Killed another celestial dragons. The sailor looked at the scene in front of him in stunned silence and stuttered when he spoke. Obviously, Sha Luo's actions and words just now made them feel like they were subverting their worldview, and they couldn't digest it for a while, but the act of killing the celestial dragons still woke them up. Big news. Notify the president immediately. With this big news that shocked the world, I can definitely join the headquarters as editor-in-chief. The members of the World Economic News Agency hiding in the dark showed ecstatic expressions, and the cameras in their hands kept taking pictures of the scene. Even though Sha Luo's words just now shocked him, they didn't stop him from subconsciously pressing the camera in his hand. All the scenes and remarks were recorded by him using the video phone and camera. He is already imagining that after this news report comes out, countless money and status will come to him. Kizaru, who had been silent all this time, suddenly moved and rushed towards Shalulia quickly. HMPH, don't try to succeed. Nami scolded, and then his figure also turned into lightning and blocked it. Bang! This time, Kizaru used all his strength. He was also elementalized, and he also controlled haki. Kizaru was obviously stronger. And when Kizaru was prepared, Nami staggered after the collision, and Kizaru had already broken through her line of defense. After bypassing Nami, Kizaru's speed continued and he fired a laser at Karina. Caught off guard, Karina did not have time to instantly open the barrier covering everyone, so she could only form a small protective barrier in front of herself. 0. The laser strikes the barrier, creating an explosion. The women next to her quickly jumped away, and the smoke in front of Karina blocked her vision. 5 meters, 4 meters, 3 meters, call out. Sha Luo's figure blocked in front of him. At this time, Sha Luo's speed has reached S level, and has completely reached the peak stage of the world. Rayleigh and Shanks can block Kizaru's teleportation, so there's no reason why he can't. Kizaru's figure stopped for an instant, then he raised his leg high and kicked Sha Luo straight in the head at the speed of light. If this kick hits, even if Sha Luo is not injured, he will still be kicked several kilometers away by the impact, and he can successfully save the only remaining celestial dragons. The corners of Sha Luo's mouth curled up slightly. The trajectory of Kizaru's attack had been sensed by him, and Sha Luo used some techniques from Wing Chun. Using the trajectory of the light speed kick, he grabbed Kizaru's feet, followed the force and directly drove Kizaru's whole body up, swung it in a circle and threw it directly into the air. Kizaru felt a huge force coming from his ankle, and his whole body appeared in the air. The entire time does not exceed 0.5 seconds. Then it was directly elementalized, and the golden human form reorganized on the ground. I won't let you snatch this woman away so easily. I haven't tasted celestial dragons yet, and I'm planning to take her back and train her to be a dancer. Sha Luo chuckled. What an annoying guy. He can actually use my speed to add your power to directly neutralize my attack. It's an amazing skill. Kizaru's everlasting expression also contained a trace of impatience. But brother Sha Luo, you were really brave. Not only did you kill 2 celestial dragons, you also plan to let a female celestial dragons be your dancer. The most vicious criminals in the world are not as ruthless as you. Kizaru continued. Haha, it's just because no one has done it before that I find it interesting. The celestial dragons, which are aloof from above, become something for others to make fun of. There is nothing more interesting than this. That's why I say you are a criminal worse than a dragon. Kizaru said seriously. Blue brew brew. Not long after he finished speaking, a ringing sound came from Kizaru's phone. Kizaru's face changed slightly, and he took out a small telephone bug from his arms. The appearance of this telephone bug was different from ordinary telephone bugs. After Kizaru picked up the phone, an old man's voice came from inside. Kizaru, don't worry about Sha Lulia's life, use all your strength to arrest Golden Lion 2, Sha Luo. If the other party wants to escape with Sha Lulia, kill Sha Luo first. The owner of this voice is one of the 5 elders who were at the top of the world government. At this time, there were also members of the CP organization they had installed at the scene, using shadows too. Like a phone projecting live footage. The 5 elders sat on the holy place Mariajoy and watched the live broadcast. After Sha Luo said that he wanted to take Sha Lulia back as a slave, his expression immediately changed. They know that if Sha Luo is really allowed to do such a thing, the deterrent power of the world government will be severely damaged. This is even more terrifying than the impact of Sha Luo killing the celestial dragons. Thinking further, if Sha Luo's public live broadcast made Sha Lulia appear as a lowly dancer, it would be broadcast all over the world. Let alone world government, all the face of celestial dragons will be wiped out. The world will also realize that the celestial dragons who are above are no different from them, and evil will also breed everywhere in the world. Dragons can only incite people to rebel against the world government, but Sha Luo's behavior has hit one of the fundamentals of celestial dragons' deterrent power. +4. Shalulia opened her mouth wide and murmured in disbelief. She was given up. As a celestial dragons, she was actually given up by the 5 elders. Are you kidding? I am one of the world's noble celestial dragons, Lord 5 elders. You can't just give up on me. Shalulia shouted in collapse. Shalulia, you now represent the face of the entire celestial dragons group. If you are captured by this vicious pirate, the majesty of the celestial dragons will also be affected. Now I declare that your identity as a celestial dragon has been stripped away, and from now on you will no longer be a celestial dragon. Quote. The voice of 5 elders without any emotion came from the phone. How so? Shalulia collapsed on the ground in despair. Her eyes were dull now, her tears had dried up, and she was still mumbling. She didn't expect that she just came out to have fun and participated in an auction. Not only was her family ruined, but she was also deprived of her status as a celestial dragons. The series of blows today had exhausted her spirit, and one accident after another impacted her brain. Kizaru, execute the order immediately from now on. The 5 elders finished speaking and the phone call was interrupted. Understood, Kizaru said calmly to the phone worm who had hung up. The light on the sunglasses flashed past, making it difficult to see his eyes clearly, and the whole person's state was completely different. Saint Mariajoy. The 5 elders gathered in the hall of Pengu City. After hanging up the phone, their discussion did not stop. This, Golden Lion 2, Sha Luo not only inherited Golden Lion's ambitions, but his behavior is even more dangerous than Golden Lion. According to the information Sengoku handed over, I'm afraid it will be difficult for Kizaru alone to take down this guy. Sengoku has also just received news. Currently, only Kizaru is free at Naval Headquarters. Aokiji and Akainu are not at Naval Headquarters. It will take 2 days to get back. Garp is currently missing. What should we do now? Should we send the Knights of God to hunt them down? This Sha Luo has threatened the existence of celestial dragons. No, he's just a guy who doesn't know anything. Even if he has some strength, he can't threaten that gentleman. Only the D clan is the enemy of that gentleman. Then send the CPO to deal with this matter. The purpose is to stop them at Sabayati Archipelago. When Sengoku finds Garp to support him, we should be able to easily take down this guy. In that case, let the CPO handle this matter. The 5 elders responded one by one. In the end, some 5 elders who suffered from senile mental retardation chose to ignore Sha Luo, a huge threat, and only send out CP to intercept Sha Luo. After all, the adult said that only the D family in the sea is her real enemy, and these guys who don't understand the true meaning of D don't need to pay attention. There are so many Ds on the sea, the adult said, just wait until they understand their true meaning and take action to deal with them. It is a perfect plan. It can be seen from this that the 5 elders, who have been in high positions all year round, have been taken away by time. It's a pity that Sha Luo was not there, otherwise he would have laughed out loud. Subsequently, the 5 elders ordered the soldiers guarding the gate to inform the members of the CPO to head to the Sabayati Archipelago at full speed. Return to the Sabayati Archipelago. Kizaru put away the phone bug slowly. I'm sorry, Lord Shalulia, it's a bit difficult to save you from this criminal, so I can only follow the orders of Lord 5 elders. Kizaru returned to his usual lazy tone. Without being restrained, Kizaru can also show off his talents and is no longer timid. 8-foot beautiful Magatama. Kizaru crossed his hands, photons gathered in his hands, and then countless dazzling light bullets flew out. Don't even think about it. Protective barrier, Karina cooed, and then a huge barrier blocked her face. The light bomb hit the barrier and caused a huge explosion, and smoke filled the area of Sha Luo. But Kizaru didn't hold back and used the Yata mirror directly, and the light continued to refract on the surrounding objects. The target is the sky behind Sha Luo. Call out. In an instant, the light disappeared, and Kizaru's figure appeared in the sky. He had accumulated a lot of energy in his hand to attack the 8-foot Magatama in a wide range, and countless light bullets fell again. Karina's face changed slightly when she sensed Kizaru appearing behind her and others. She just wanted to cover the barrier into a circle, but she ran out of time. Boom! A huge sword energy blasted out from the smoke. All the light bullets along the way were swallowed up by the sword energy, and the smoke was blown away by the strong wind. It was the mighty country that Sha Luo drew his sword to kill. Facing this sword energy that was a mixture of weapon color and conqueror's energy, Kizaru's expression changed drastically, and his body elementalized immediately dodged away. The sword energy brushed against the afterimage of Kizaru's light and flew away into the distance. Boom! There was another loud noise, and the sword energy bombarded the trunky of the Yargu mangrove tree. A big hole was blown directly into the huge tree trunk. The trunk was already a little precarious, and some tree trunks stuck to the side supported the big tree from collapsing. It's so scary. Is this the move? Aokiji said. It's really scary. If you're not careful, you will really be admitted to the hospital. Kizaru landed on the ground again and patted the dust on his clothes. One bite at a time was terrifying. Now, fire! The marine soldiers finally came online after being offline for a long time. Under the orders of the on-site officer, the field soldiers fired bullets and artillery shells from their firearms to bombard Nami and others. With the barrier there, even Kizaru's attacks can't break the barrier, and it's even less possible for these marine cannonballs. Apart from creating some smoke, it does not cause any harm to the women. Lu Shu also drew his sword and rushed forward. He had been standing here paddling for too long, and he heard one thing that shocked him. He also understood that the main goal now was no longer to rescue the celestial dragons. Instead, execute the celestial dragons who have been stripped of their identities. Reiju's figure appeared in front of him, blocking his progress. Marine-san, could you please go back? You also heard what our captain said. You cannot kill these celestial dragons casually. Reiju said in a seductive voice. She has now put on the combat uniform, and has successfully practiced the armament color and observation hockey. Now her strength has fully reached the level of 2 years later, and she cannot fall behind when facing Vice Admiral and some pirate groups. So she confidently stopped Lu Shu, the strongest person present except Kizaru. Stop talking nonsense, you criminals. Marine reinforcements are constantly arriving. Kizaru Admiral can now use his full strength. You have committed such a heinous crime. It's impossible to leave here. Quote, Lu Shu said with a serious expression. Haha, if we wanted to leave, we could have left long ago, but Captain Sha Luo wanted to have a fight with Marine Admiral, so he is waiting here. Reiju smiled softly. Rayleigh ran easily on her own. Reiju and the others had only endured Sha Luo's flames in the past few days, but his desire to fight had not dissipated. She understood that what Sha Luo wanted now was a hearty battle, so she waited until Marine Admiral arrived. In this way, Reiju started fighting with the Marine Elite Vice Admiral. Nami cleared away the miscellaneous soldiers present, and the thunder roared like a tiger and struck the sailors who were fleeing in all directions. No matter whether they were ordinary soldiers or school officers, they could not withstand Na's thunder and lightning impact. The others were quite idle. Robin would attack the Marines from time to time, causing them to break bones and lose their combat effectiveness. Perona sends out negative ghosts to walk among the Marines. Only Karina set up a protective barrier to protect Pacia and Shalulia from behind. Boo-hoo-hoo. Kizaru, who had already fought against Sha Luo, also had a tacit understanding to stay away from the battlefield just now, just to avoid accidentally injuring one of their own. Kizaru shoots lasers from his hands and feet in various postures. Sha Luo opened his eyes wide and watched as the several laser beams emitted by Kizaru magnified in his eyes from far to near at an extremely fast speed, allowing the laser shots to hit his body. A deafening loud noise came from Sha Luo's position, mixed with firelight to form a huge mushroom cloud. The strong wind caused by the impact shattered all the huge bubbles rising from the Sabayati archipelago. It looks like an ordinary laser beam, but in fact each one is a powerful attack that can easily destroy an entire large warship. When the fire and smoke dispersed, Sha Luo's figure stood among them. It's a good attack. I feel pain. It seems that Marine Admiral's attack is not as bad as I thought. It can still cause some damage. Sha Luo patted the dust on his clothes. The special combat suit was made of very good material and was not damaged even after the impact. Kizaru's attacks can also cause him some minor damage. But the special battle suit helped him withstand some of the impact and he only felt a little pain. Oh, the rumored monster physique is causing trouble now. What should we do? Kizaru looked surprised and his pupils dilated a lot. Marine Admiral doesn't just have this strength, come on. Sha Luo said with a smile. Oh, I was underestimated. It seems I have to show some real skills. Kizaru also smiled, raised his hands to emit light, and once again used the 8-foot stroke jade. 8-foot beautiful Magatama. It's just that this time, the 8-foot tracing jade didn't just trace the edges but not hit people like before. Not only are all the vital points of the attack trajectory sensed through sight and color, but all his escape routes are blocked. This made Sha Luo's eyes twitch. Sure enough, Kizaru is Luffy's second uncle, right? I don't believe that the fledgling Luffy can avoid this kind of accuracy. The hit on Luffy was all strokes, and the hit on his teacher Zephyr avoided all vital points, but the hit on the key was perfect, but the hit on Luffy was not hit. The release of water is even more outrageous than Kuzan, it is simply release of water. Clang. Sha Luo only slashed horizontally with his sword, and the sword wind mixed with Conqueror's Haki directly scattered the 8-foot stroke jade. The tracery jade fell on the grass and water next to it, and a big explosion occurred. Although this thing cannot hurt himself, it will still cause some pain. He is not a wooden stake and will not let himself be beaten. Then, he directly used his fastest sword skill, Dragon Splitting Void. The roaring dragon head rushed straight towards Kizaru, leaving an orange afterimage wherever it passed, and a tornado was also formed at the tail of the Dragon Splitting Void slash. The tornado continued to spin, carrying the raptor and sweeping through the surrounding flowers, plants and trees. This is exactly the change brought about by Sha Luo's moves after getting the ultimate divine sword. The raptor splitting void slash has been evolved. It is faster and can spin out a tornado to protect Sha Luo in the middle, destroying everything close. Oh, it's so fast. Even Kizaru was slightly shocked, and then he clenched his right hand on the palm of his left hand. Tien Kong Yun Sword. Kizaru whispered the name of the move, and then a sword made of light was pulled out from Kizaru's hand as if something was being pulled out of his hand. Clang! The lightsaber slashed down from top to bottom, just in time to collide with Sha Luo's raptor-splitting void. Boom! Sha Luo's raptor-splitting void was torn into pieces, and the tornado turned into a violent wind that swept everything around it. The ground was blown over, trees were blown down, and even rocks were shattered. Porosalino, I think your nickname should not be called Kizaru. It would be better to change it to Acting Ape. Sha Luo, who was confronting Kizaru, suddenly said with a strange expression, but he kept moving and attacked Kizaru with his double sword-style swordsmanship. What do you mean, brother Sha Luo? Sha Luo's words made Kizaru a little confused, but he also calmly resisted all Sha Luo's attacks. After thinking about it, there seems to be no big problem with my move. The power is calculated very accurately. Why do you think you are an ape next time? No, it's nothing. I just think it would be funny if you went to the video station to be an entertainer. Sha Luo's unreasonable divergence of topics made Kizaru really confused. Entertainment actor, can I take this sentence as your mockery of me? Kizaru said seemingly casually, but Sha Luo, who was slashing with him, clearly felt that the force he used had increased a bit. The two looked like old friends, chatting constantly and then competing with each other in swordsmanship. Only the two of them knew the difference between them. Although for Sha Luo, being slashed by Kizaru and causing some blood loss, just like Rayleigh's divine avoidance, is not too dangerous. No, 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 how dare first ridicule Marine Admiral. I really think your image is very suitable as an entertainer, and I also thought of a set of dances for you to perform on stage, even the name. It's called the Apple and Pineapple Dance. If you, Uncle Kizaru, perform on stage, you will definitely be very popular. You will probably become a top star in the world overnight. Sha Luo said with a serious face, and then used a powerful and heavy blow to knock Kizaru back a few steps. In addition, he felt that Kizaru would be very suitable to be the principal of a kindergarten. His appearance was so amiable. Oh, I misunderstood you, brother Sha Luo, but after all, I am also a Marine Admiral, with my own justice, but if I retire in the future, I can consider becoming an entertainment actor. Quote. Kizaru was knocked back and was silent for a while, then showed a clear look, and then said with a somewhat regretful tone. Even Sha Luo was amazed by this change of expression. He is indeed a famous actor, and his facial changes really come naturally. Well, it's a pity that you, Sha Luo, are not Marine, and you just made such heaven-defying remarks, otherwise I would have a colleague with similar interests. Kizaru said with a regretful tone. The next second, light gathered in his hand, forming a golden mirror. Yada mirror. After Kizaru said the name of the move, the light refracted from the mirror and reached behind Sha Luo in just an instant. Immediately after raising his foot, there was a light speed kick. This time Kizaru entangled a large number of armament hockey in the light speed kick. This also shows that Kizaru's move is not simple, at least he uses his full strength. Sha Luo, who was already prepared, had already predicted the trajectory of his attack. He immediately raised his left hand to block the kick with his arm, and his arm was also wrapped with strong armament hockey. Bang, boom. A huge storm broke out centered on the point of contact between the two, and a big explosion was produced, setting off a thick dust mist. In the smoke, Kizaru retracted his long legs, pointed his finger at Sha Luo's position and fired a laser. Call out. The laser shot hit Sha Luo, but armament hockey blocked it, and the light scattered and fell to the ground, causing a big explosion. When Kizaru fired the laser, Sha Luo was already accumulating strength and slashed out two huge sword energy with both swords. /wave hyphenation point purgatory. The sword energy dispersed the smoke in front of Kizaru's eyes, and it continued to expand in his eyes. Oh, Kizaru was obviously also surprised that Sha Luo's attack was so fast. His pupils narrowed involuntarily, and a few drops of cold sweat broke out on his head. Click click click. Kizaru's body, hands and head were divided into several pieces by the sword energy and flew out, but Kizaru's separated body still looked surprised. The next second, the stumps and broken arms turned into light again, reuniting far away from Sha Luo. The sword energy that also contains armament hockey was already sensed by Kizaru at the moment it overwhelmed him, and was elementalized in advance. After letting Sha Luo's /wave cut his body, he rushed away. The slash wave flew over several islands from island number 1, and then rushed to the sea. Everything he passed was affected by Sha Luo's sword energy. The house was split into two, and the trees and rocks were submerged and instantly turned into powder and disappeared. The islands number 2 and 3 next door were affected by Sha Luo's sword energy and were in ruins. Is this the power of Marine Admiral and Golden Lion too, Sha Luo? It is not a power that humans possess at all. The human traffickers in the illegal zone in islands number 1 to 29 are planning to leave Subayati archipelago after receiving the news. But it was still a step too late, and ordinary civilians seldom moved here, and some were evacuated in advance by the Marines. Only these human traffickers and bounty criminals are still busy carrying their treasures and fleeing. Unfortunately, some of them have been buried under the ruins forever by the traffickers. It was really dangerous to destroy the cities of 2 archipelagos with one sword attack, and still break through the sea with unabated strength. Young people today are so terrible. Afraid, if I hadn't reacted faster, I would have almost died in your hands just now. Kizaru, who was far away from the center of the battlefield, patted his chest with a lingering fear, looking frightened. When the dust and fog dissipated, the center had turned into a huge pit, with only 2 thin stone pillars standing where Sha Luo and Kizaru had just stood. What caught Kizaru's eyes was Sha Luo's somewhat excited smiling face. Are you kidding? With your observation haki, you must have predicted my attack just now, otherwise you wouldn't have proactively elementalized it in advance. Sha Luo smiled. Well, brother Sha Luo, your steel body is really troublesome. Neither the laser nor my light speed kick can cause effective attacks. It's really a headache. Sha Luo's praise did not make Kizaru feel proud. Instead, he looked at Sha Luo with a headache and said. Kizaru felt like he was facing a combination of 4 emperors and Golden Lion. Superb swordsmanship, powerful physique, and the unfathomable haki. No matter which skill he has, it gives him a headache. He regretted a little why he came back so early. It was all his own fault. Sorry, I finished the task early and planned to come back for a leisurely holiday. As a result, I encountered such a troublesome guy when I came back. If I could fish for a while, maybe this task wouldn't be my turn. Now he starts to envy Akainu and Aokiji who are still on mission. If I had known better, I would have fished for a while and asked Aokiji and Akainu to handle the task and come back earlier, then it would not be my turn to take over this troublesome matter. I'm just a little stronger than a normal person. If I try harder, I might not be able to handle it anymore. Brother Sha Luo, you don't look like you can break through the defense with just a little effort. Kizaru rolled his eyes at him angrily. He felt that Sha Luo's words were in Versailles. This special physique is actually only slightly stronger than normal people in his eyes. Physique, how about we end it like this? Brother Sha Luo, how about you hand over Shalulia Palace and I let you go? After all, it's hard to tell the winner if the fight continues. Moreover, Vice Admiral Garp will come over soon, and you will be in trouble by then. Quote. Kizaru discussed with Sha Luo again in a lazy tone. He really wanted to end this mission early, and the 5 elders just allowed themselves to prevent Sha Luo from entering the new world. If you use the excuse of successfully rescuing Cherulia Palace and then protecting the other party, you cannot pursue the Sky Pirates. Then the 5 elders won't hold themselves accountable, right? Anyway, this isn't just once or twice. I think it would be better for you, Kizaru Admiral, to give up on the celestial dragons, and then pretend to let us leave and enter the new world, so that you don't have to continue fighting with me. Sha Luo suggested with a smile. He knew that Kizaru would not let him go so easily. He had played very well just now, and he didn't want to stop so early. Kizaru's swordsmanship is comparable to that of Rayleigh, and it seems that he has practiced swordsmanship all year round. It just lacks a power-charging ultimate move like God's Avoidance. While fighting against strong swordsmen, he continued to become proficient in the swordsmanship of the supreme divine swordsmanship. Between each sword strike, the attack is accompanied by a sword shadow, and the sword energy in the sword shadow and the damage of multiple attacks can cause actual attacks on the body. It is completely an alternative weapon-colored internal destruction technique. This is not possible. If I really pretend to let you go, Jung, I will be dismissed from my post tomorrow and imprisoned until impelled down. I still want to carry out my own justice on this sea. Quote. Although it is a bit exaggerated, if Sha Luo is really let go, his life will be greatly affected. Kizaru clasped his hands together, condensed the Tian Kong Yun sword again, and then attacked Sha Luo at close range. His health-preserving swordsmanship is still very powerful even without acting. However, due to the strength of the two, it was still difficult to determine the winner in a short period of time, even if they were entangled with armament hockey and conqueror's hockey. In order to save more energy, Kizaru would directly attack Sha Luo with lasers in the gaps. Because resisting Sha Luo's strange power consumes much more energy than using a laser without charging. He planned to use a protracted battle to delay Sha Luo and wait for further support from Marine. He really had no confidence in taking down Sha Luo by himself. Sha Luo also saw Kizaru's desire to drag out a protracted war. So the scene became, Sha Luo kept attacking, Kizaru either resisted and fired the laser, or he turned into a flash of light and swung the two swords piercing his body in the air. When Kizaru was slashing with him, he would use more strength, and when firing lasers, he would constantly dodge and dodge. The battle has reached a stalemate, and both sides need a breakthrough. Click click click. The close combat between Sha Luo and Kizaru, every collision or dodge became news material for the news agency reporters. These desperate members of the news agency were not willing to leave here even after seeing the aftermath of the collision between the two strong men. Because the battle between the two was so exciting, the collision of swordsmanship, sparkling fruits dodge speed, the game between the two of them looking for flaws and creating them, and the attacks that entangled hockey. Even in his eyes, the two of them often transformed into afterimages or golden light, completely unable to capture their figures. But the attacks seemed to hit the hearts of the news agency reporters. It was so shocking to watch the battle between two powerful men at close range. Golden Lion 2. Sha Luo, the successor of Golden Lion Shiki, is actually a great pirate who can rival Marine Admiral. And he also killed celestial dragons and trained a female celestial dragons into a dancer for his own pleasure. This sea will soon become more turbulent. Ha 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 ha, it's so interesting. It's unprecedented news. The clicking sound of taking pictures kept ringing, and the reporter's eyes were shining, watching the battle between the two men intently. His heart was already surging like ocean waves, and he was really looking forward to how rough the sea would be after his big news was announced. The other side, Nami had already finished dealing with the ordinary marine soldiers, and most of the marines were already lying on the ground with black smoke coming from their mouths. The kind-hearted Nami did not directly kill the pirates like those who surrounded him, but still let these irrelevant marines live. Vivi, Kaya, Lackey and the others were fighting against several rear admirals brought by Lu Shu. These rear admirals have followed Lu Shu all year round, and they have all been taught to derive considerable strength. However, the three people who have practiced for 2 years under the blessing of the training room are stronger. The rear admirals can only barely resist the attacks of a few women. But it looks like it can't last much longer. Lu Mouse has a hard time blocking or dodging attacks from Reiju and Robin, and from time to time he has to guard against Perona's passive ghost. He also glanced at the sailor who fell to the ground, feeling inexplicably anxious to get up. Marine Admiral has not dealt with Golden Lion 2 Sha Luo for so long, so it seems that it will not come back so soon. In other words, before Marine support arrives, he has to stop Sha Luo's entire crew by himself. Thinking of this, Lu Shu's heart became cold. After dodging an attack from Reiju, he found an opportunity to jump away. Now he was sweating profusely and panting. The siege of several people consumed him a lot of energy. There were several girls among them who had the same strength as him, which made it even more difficult for Shu Tu to stop him. Hasn't Marine's support arrived yet? If this continues, it will really be left to these little girls. Lu Shu looked at the women in front of him with a serious expression and sighed peacefully in his heart. At my age, I would end up losing at the hands of this group of girls. This is simply a great shame and humiliation. Sizzle. The sound of thunder and lightning piercing the air rang in Shu Shu's ears. He suddenly turned his head and found that Nami was launching a huge thunder and lightning in this direction without him noticing. Thunder cannon. Nami let out a cooing sound, and sprayed out a huge beam of light from his hand that looked like the judgment of God. With the blessing of the battle suit, Nami's, God's judgment, became more powerful and the current became more intense. Lu Shu's pupils narrowed, the laser cannon was already close at hand, and he couldn't escape the blow at his speed. Now he could only gather all his strength to block the blow with his iron body, but he didn't know if he would have the strength to fight again after blocking Chi. However, the battlefield did not allow him to think for a moment, so he had no choice but to use the iron body to carry it. Call out. Just when Lu Shu was a little desperate, a figure appeared in front of him. Clang. The thunder cannon hit the sword of the person in front of Shu Shu. The powerful armament hockey withstood the impact of thunder and lightning, and the electric current was chopped and scattered freely. After the thunder cannon dissipated, the man slowly put away his sword, and a trace of electric current crackled on the surface of his body, but it could not affect the other party. Vice Admiral, are you okay? When the person turned around, Lu Shu could see the face of the person clearly and relaxed slightly. Tone, no problem, you came at the right time, Yamanaka. Lu Shu breathed heavily, relaxed a little, and accelerated his recovery of strength. The person who came was none other than Huo Shaoshan, one of the vice admirals of naval headquarters. Among the many vice admirals, Huo Shaoshan was also one of the most powerful ones. He also has a very gentle personality and is a role model for marine recruits. Call out. Two figures appeared in the field again. The visitors are Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Ghost Spider and Doberman. All of them are Vice Admiral who came to support under Sengoku's order. In the version. After abandoning the first goal of his mission, he headed towards the Sabayati archipelago at full speed. The next two people arrived here almost at the same time. Only Huo Shaoshan came here first and happened to save Lu Shu, who was about to be hit by the thunder cannon. Vice Admiral, what's going on now? Are these little girls the target? Where is Kizaru Admiral? He must have arrived a long time before us. Why is no one here? Ghost Spider and Doberman glanced at the situation on the field and asked. Kizaru Admiral is currently fighting the criminal, Golden Lion 2, Sha Luo over there, and the winner has not yet been decided. As for the current goal, under the orders of Lord Five Elders, kill Celestial Dragon's Shalulia Palace with all our strength to prevent the criminal Sha Luo from escaping with Shalulia Palace. Seeing two more acquaintances arriving, Lu Shu sat down on the ground with relief to recover his strength, and then told him about the situation. After working together for such a long time, he still knows the strength of these three vice admirals very well, so he is very relieved. What? Kill the Celestial Dragons? Why would Lord Five Elders issue such an order? The three vice admirals of the headquarters all looked at Lu Shu in surprise, then looked at each other and asked in confusion. Well, the sinner Sha Luo not only killed the other two celestial dragons, but also took away the remaining Shalulia Palace, and then trained her into her own slave dancer. The five elders did not allow such a thing to exist, so they ordered the priority to kill the celestial dragon's Shalulia Palace and then made every effort to arrest the sinner Golden Lion 2 Gate. Lu Shu slowly explained the reason. The three vice admirals of the headquarters were all shocked by the information Lu Shu said. Huo Shaoshan's squinted eyes opened wide. The cigarette in Ghost Spider's mouth had fallen to the ground without even realizing it, while Doberman's mouth twitched. You actually want to turn the celestial dragons into your own slaves? You must have a worm in your head. Sha Luo really dares to think about this. The three of them thought this sentence together in their hearts, and they all broke into cold sweat behind their backs. Opening parenthesis. Seeing that Marine has arrived with reinforcements, Karina frowned. Mikita, come here first. Without Sha Luo present, the command was handed over to Karina, the brains of the team. After thinking rapidly, her brain shouted to Michita. After hearing Karina's call, Michita no longer struggled with the rear admiral in front of her. With a wave of the parasol in his hand, he knocked off the long sword held by rear admiral, and then kicked the opponent in the face with a kick. The rear admiral of naval headquarters was kicked directly into the middle of the trio of vice admirals in the main headquarters and became silent. Hey, Albert Rear Admiral, are you okay? Huo Shaoshan squatted down and shook Albert lying on the ground with concern, but the latter did not respond. After checking him nervously, I found that he was still alive, but he fainted, and then breathed a sigh of relief. Albert has no big problem, but he has fainted and seems to have no ability to fight anymore. Huo Shaoshan shook his head and said to everyone. Well, it's okay. The soldiers on my ship came over immediately and put him down. Just wait here for the medical rescue. Quote, after hearing this, Ghost Spider immediately nodded with relief and said, "It seems that these little girls are not ordinary people. Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral was defeated easily by them. No wonder you are in such a mess, Lu Shu." Doberman looked at the fighting girls with serious expressions. The likes of Vivi, Kaya, Lackey, Nokigao, Khalifa, etc. can all compete against Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral or Commodore and gain the upper hand. Although Canis has practiced for 2 years, his strength is the lowest, mainly because there is no supervision by Sha Luo, and Canis is not a combat-type person. When Doberman's vision turned to Nami, Karina, Reiju, Robin, and just now Michita. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He had just seen Michita's strength, and he still showed no signs of fatigue after fighting the Naval Headquarters Rear Admiral for so long. After her companions shouted, she immediately defeated Albert. He judged that these 5 girls were currently the most powerful among them. Michita herself is a combat member of Baroque Studio and has certain combat experience. After experiencing the development of Sha Luo, her combat effectiveness also soared. 2 years of training allowed her to play with light and heavy fruits and paper arts, plus she had knowledge. The perception of chi. Her dodge ability is very superb, and she attacks with an umbrella, which makes Michita's battle look very elegant and easy. The other side. Michita was called by Karina, and after knocking Albert away, she jumped back and returned to Karina's side. "What's wrong, Karina? I'm having a blast," Michita asked with some confusion. "Marine reinforcements are coming here in a steady stream. To be on the safe side, you should take Pacia and the Celestial Dragons back to the ship first, and leave it to us to take care of it." See. Karina quickly explained the situation to Michita. "Hey, Yada, I also want to fight the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral over there. I have never fought against such a high-level Marine general. I don't know how strong they are." Michita had a reluctant expression, then blinked her cute little eyes and said to coquettish, "No, Sha Luo is not here, then I have the final say here. Do you want to disobey Captain Sha Luo's order?" Karina shook her head and dismissed the other party's request. Obviously she didn't want to eat Mickey. Ta acts like a spoiled brat. She is not Sha Luo. Although she is a good sister in bed, she still puts the overall situation first. "Oh, okay, but when you come back, you must tell me whether I am stronger now or the Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral is stronger." Michita sighed and reluctantly accepted the order, but as she was worried about winning or losing, she still gave Karina instructions. "Of course, Michita, you are more powerful. Okay, let's take them up first before Marine's reinforcements arrive." Karina blinked and made an okay gesture to her, then urged, "I understand, then I'll leave this to you." After being praised by Karina, Michita's vanity greatly increased, and then she came to the side of the 2 women behind her. To Patsy. After Ya and Shalulia used their fruit abilities to turn into a light and heavy state of zero gravity, they pulled each other up and slowly lifted into the air. "What did you do to me? Where are we going?" Shalulia was startled by Michita's actions and shouted loudly. "Stop struggling. If you fall down later, I can't guarantee your safety. Also, do you want to stay where you were and be killed by those Marine Vice Admirals? Be honest with me. Returning to the ship first can at least guarantee your life." Quote. Michita looked at the struggling Shalulia with some disdain, obviously not liking this Celestial Dragons either. He was able to save the other party only because of Sha Luo's order. Hearing what Michita said, Shalulia was so frightened that she didn't dare to move. She grabbed Michita tightly, for fear that she would really fall. Pacia seemed much quieter. Although she was also very nervous, she allowed Michita to drive her into the sky without any struggle. "Oops, they want to take the Celestial Dragons to the sky, we have to stop them quickly." Seeing this scene, Lu Shu suddenly felt bad and shouted loudly. The Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral trio on the opposite side also saw Mikita slowly taking off with Celestial Dragons Shalulia and an unknown woman. The next second, the 3 Vice Admirals from the headquarters immediately teleported out using Shaver, and then continued to use Moonwalk to take off, intending to intercept Michita. Before Lu Shu could move, he was stopped by Reiju, who was obviously not allowed to go to support him. Sizzle. Nami's figure appeared in front of Doberman, and in the eyes of the other party's astonished eyes, he kicked him directly from the air to the ground with a lightning kick. Huo Shaoshan suddenly realized that his feet were bound by something. Looking down, he saw two slender arms extending from the ground and grabbing his ankles. Then a huge force came and he was thrown to the ground. A huge barrier appeared in front of the last ghost spider, which looked like a tennis racket. The ghost spider drew his sword to block it, but was still knocked away by the heavy slap. Karina's barrier was not something he could break through. Even if he looked at it for 3 days and 3 nights, he would not be able to break through this barrier. It's not easy to think about our situation. The 4 women stood on the opposite side of the vice admirals, with confident smiles on their faces. With them here, it is impossible for these people to break through this iron wall. It's Logia's demon fruit power. And there are 2 very troublesome Paramecia ability users. The 3 frustrated vice admirals gritted their teeth and said. He could only helplessly stare at Shalulia, who was gradually moving away. They understand that this mission has most likely failed. Now they can only pin their hopes on Kizaru Admiral, who is fighting with Sha Luo. If Kizaru can defeat Sha Luo, then the sailboat in the sky will crash and the mission will be completed. I didn't expect that when I was about to reach the combat power to execute the Buster Call configuration, I would be stopped by a pirate group that emerged 2 years ago. We must not let these guys leave. Doberman shouted angrily. 4 elite vice admirals who executed the Buster Call have now been dispatched, and Admiral Kizaru is also here. This scale can already be regarded as a Buster Call level combat force, but he was actually stopped here by Sha Luo and his group, which obviously made him very angry. As a hawk in the Marines, he has a tough style and implements his own style of justice. Even if he is facing the 4 emperors, he dares to speak loudly. Of course, a powerful criminal like Nami will not allow the other party to escape from here. He immediately drew his sword and rushed forward, bound to kill the criminal. Don't be so angry with this vice admiral. Let's calm down the anger first. Nami stopped in front of him and smiled. She was the one who knocked Doberman away just now, and now the enemy is extremely jealous when they see each other. Doberman's sword is covered with a large amount of armament haki. Unfortunately, Nami has already understood the trajectory of his attacks and elementalized them in advance to avoid all attacks. Others also started a new war. Oh, it seems that marine reinforcements have arrived. Brother Sha Luo, the situation of your crew does not look good. Kizaru also sensed the situation in the distance, and marine reinforcements had arrived, which made him relieved. Haha, I believe in the strength of my crew, no difficulty can stop them. Sha Luo chuckled lightly, feeling reassured about Nami and the others' strength. They have been tested by Sha Luo, so there is no big problem in dealing with these marine vice admiral. Indeed, the 2 little sisters like the thunder fruit and the barrier fruit are really tricky. It's difficult to take them down with Vice Admiral's strength. Kizaru suddenly thought of Nami and Karina, and looked a little distressed. The abilities of these 2 girls were indeed difficult to deal with. One has a barrier that can easily block his laser, and the other has thunder that can keep up with his speed and attack history. It's enough for several other Vice Admirals to drink from. But troubles turned out to be troubles, and his battle with Sha Luo did not stop. Waving the lightsaber in his hand, he would kick out a laser with his foot from time to time. And Sha Luo also used her 2 swords to block or chop away. Just when Sha Luo and 24 Kizaru were fighting each other again. Suddenly, 5 figures appeared around Sha Luo. At the same time, he attacked Sha Luo. In an instant, Sha Luo was pressed to the ground by 5 people, 4 of them restrained his limbs, and 1 person pressed on his back. Kizaru was also very surprised by the sudden appearance of these 5 people, and silently pushed up his sunglasses. CPO, Kizaru said calmly. It seemed that the 5 elders did not fully trust his strength, so they immediately sent an unknown CPO to support him. But it just happened to be a big help. I really can't take down Sha Luo by myself. Now we have the help of 5 more CPOs. Even if they are not as strong as ourselves, they can still help. Criminal, Golden Lion to Sha Luo, stop struggling needlessly and be captured immediately. The CPO, who was pressing on Sha Luo's back, said. Where did you come from, little Karami? Do you think you are worthy of surrendering to me? Sha Luo's eyes were sharp, and she turned her eyes to look behind her, suppressing herself. The CPO said coldly. Sha Luo's insulting words did not affect the emotions of these people at all. The masks they wore did not reveal their faces at this time. Kizaru Admiral, could you please escort Golden Lion to Sha Luo to Impelton, the underwater prison? Seeing this, the CPO spoke to Kizaru. Oh Duo, you have to be careful. This guy is not easy to take down. You may die if you are not careful. Kizaru did not agree to him, but looked a little weird, and then reminded these people. The expressions under the masks of several CPOs were a bit disdainful. Looking at Sha Luo, who had been suppressed, they couldn't figure out how the other party could escape from their hands. For this kind of rising star pirate who has been at sea for 2.5 years, it is already a great honor to be able to dispatch 5 of their CPOs at the same time. They felt that if the 5 of them attacked together, even Admiral might not be able to escape from their hands. Not to mention that there is a Kizaru on the field now, and it is already a sure thing to win Sha Luo. After all, the opponent's strongest record was Cheng, who could compete with Aokiji 2 years ago. Degree, and is not Aokiji's opponent. Don't worry Kizaru Admiral, since the 5 elders only sent 5 of us here, it is their trust in us. It is enough to capture this new star pirate. As soon as the CPO finished speaking, the CPO who restricted Sha Luo's right hand felt a huge force coming from his hand. In an instant, Sha Luo's right hand broke free from his grasp, and then the other 4 people also felt the giant force at the same time. Sha Luo turned around and grabbed the CPO's cheek with her right hand at lightning speed. Click click click. Ah! Sha Luo's huge force squeezed the CPO's mask and slowly shattered, and the CPO also screamed. What? The other 4 people were stunned, but they came to their senses immediately. 4 people attacked Sha Luo at the same time from different angles. Sha Luo remained unmoved and allowed them to attack at will, watching with a cold expression. CPO in your own hands. The other party grabbed his wrist with both hands and kept exerting force, trying to crush Sha Luo's wrist and break free. But this is the real uselessness. Sha Luo has a body of steel, and this strength can't even let him break through the defense. You were the one who was so arrogant just now, right? Let me see how pure you are. Sha Luo grinned, his expression a bit ferocious, and anger surged into his heart. These guys not only attacked me sneakily, but also dared to press me to the ground. Without even looking at their colors, I thought they were made of mud. Hey, retreat quickly. Sha Luo's expression made Kizaru feel a little bad, and he immediately called out to those few people. A CPO was attacking. The latter also noticed it and jumped away immediately. Kizaru fired several laser shots at Sha Luo's body, but they were unable to stop him. Sha Luo's right hand was wrapped with a lot of Conqueror's Haki and Armament Haki. The next second, the CPO was hit hard by him. Sha Luo used all his strength, the rich 2-color Haki and his strange power, all used without reservation. Boom boom boom. A huge wave of air erupted on the spot, the wind roared, and black lightning spread. This is proof that Sha Luo used his full strength. Ah! The CPO who was hit felt his face distorted, his whole head deformed under the attack, and then he screamed wildly. When the strong wind dissipated, only a humanoid object with a distorted face and a grotesque head was left lying on the spot. Sha Luo sensed through seeing, hearing, and feeling, Jian felt that this CPO still had the breath of life. Without leaving any chance for him, Sha Luo raised his right foot to prepare for a follow-up attack. Puff! Blood spurted out from his mouth, and the already unconscious CPO sprayed blood 1 meter high. The whole person was completely silent, dense. Is this the only level? It seems that the purity is not high. The 5 elders sometimes misjudge the person. Sha Luo grinned with some disdain. The CPOs on the opposite side were silent for a while. They thought they had completely stopped Sha Luo, but they didn't expect a counterattack. The sneak attack failed, and one member was instantly killed in a face-to-face encounter. Kizaru Admiral, you will be the main attack next, and we will cooperate with you to capture the Golden Lion too. This is the order of the 5 elders. Well, since it is an order from Lord 5 Elders, there is nothing we can do about it, so please cooperate. Kizaru condensed the Tian Kong Yun sword again and rushed forward first. Fighting with Sha Luo at close range can reveal more flaws, and CPO's attack can be smoother. Facing the menacing Kizaru, Sha Luo did not choose to use the double sword style, but used the one sword style for defense for the first time in a long time. Clang clang clang. The two kept fighting with swordsmanship, and the CPO also used his fists to attack from the side. For a moment, Sha Luo fell into a passive defensive state. The sword in his right hand kept resisting Kizaru's attacks, and he clenched his fist to resist CP Scarf's attacks. However, he soon entered a disadvantageous state. After all, it was difficult for him to beat 4 hands with 2 fists. Besides, they have 10 hands. Good chance. A CPO who was observing the situation at the edge of the water suddenly brightened up. When Sha Luo fell into decline, a huge flaw was exposed in her back. He just dodged and landed on Sha Luo, and the other people's offensive became a little more fierce. Just to create an opportunity for the other party to attack Sha Luo's vital points. Iron finger hyphenation point steel. The CPO's fingers are dyed with a rich layer of armament hockey. This technique is a skill derived from finger pistol fused with iron body. And just like its name, it is as hard as steel and is a very powerful piercing skill. His target is the position of Sha Luo's back heart. As long as this move hits, it will definitely cause serious damage to Sha Luo. That's what he thought, but would the reality really be what he thought? When his fingers really touched Sha Luo's vest, that kind of contact felt really. The steel-like touch made his expression change drastically. Clang. The fingers and back made the sound of gold and iron, and his fingers simulated the hardness of steel. And Sha Luo's back was like real steel. No, it was simply harder than steel. Sha Luo was already on guard, but when he saw that he couldn't dodge, he covered the armed hockey to increase his defense. Only then did a scene appear that frightened the CPO. At this time, he felt as if his fingers that could be pierced by steel were broken. Sha Luo slashed horizontally with the sword in his right hand, forcing Kizaru and the 3 CPOs to retreat. Then he immediately turned his head and aimed his left hand directly at the head of the CPO behind him. He wanted to crush the CPO's head like before. The CPO's eyes were frightened. He looked at Sha Luo with a ferocious smile, and his hands grabbed his head at an extremely fast speed. Thinking back to what happened to his teammate just now, he couldn't help but break into a cold sweat and wanted to reach out to block Sha Luo's attack. Call out. Just when Sha Luo was about to catch him, Kizaru suddenly appeared behind him and kicked the unsuspecting Sha Luo away with a quick kick. Boom. Sha Luo plowed a big hole in the ground. Uncle Kizaru, you don't have martial ethics now. Fighting like this is pointless. Sha Luo slowly stood up from the pit, patted the dust on her clothes, and looked at Kizaru with some contempt. There is no way. After all, brother Sha Luo, your body structure is really different from ordinary people. It is difficult for ordinary attacks to cause damage to you. If you want to make effective attacks, you will dodge them. Kizaru scratched his head and expressed. There was no embarrassment on his face. After all, an old man like him didn't care about martial ethics. Tisk, that's really boring. Sha Luo stared at them with disdain, not forgetting to take a sip to show her contempt. Huang, who was not embarrassed at first. Yue couldn't help scratching his face with his fingers, but the CPOs didn't show any emotion. It has become their norm to fight with more and less, and there is nothing to be embarrassed about. Since you don't practice martial arts, I won't play anymore. Sha Luo took out a bottle of yellow potion from the storage space and opened the bottle cap. He drank without hesitation. This bottle of potion is a forced drug. Kizaru Admiral, get on him quickly. Although he didn't know what the bottle of potion was, the CPO instinctively felt that something was not good and immediately asked Kizaru to stop it. Kizaru also immediately fired a laser shot with his foot. Sha Luo just tapped the laser, lightly, with her hand, causing its path to deflect and fly towards the mangrove tree next to it. Boom! In a burst of fire, Sha Luo drank the entire bottle of potion and then dropped the bottle. At this time, his eyes had turned blood red, and his eyes were glowing red, and he seemed to be in an irrational state. But this is just a look. Sha Luo is still in good condition, but the full force of the squeeze makes him look red-eyed. Completely lifted, with Sha Luo whispering, the originally 2-meter-tall body gradually grew larger. In just a short while, the body size had skyrocketed to 10 meters tall. Sha Luo now looks like a little giant, with muscles all over her body and eyes. Red light and terrifying momentum emerged from his body. Hey, I only heard that he took Paramecia lion fruit, but I don't know what kind of dual fruit ability user he is. Isn't this zone, phantom beast species, human fruit, and giant form? Or is this a change caused by his weird physique? Kizaru had big beads of sweat on his face, and he looked at Sha Luo's changes in surprise. Even the CP who had not changed his mood in 10,000 years was a little shocked at Sha Luo at this time. Come on, let's start phase 2. Sha Luo, who had completely liberated her own power, felt extremely relaxed and had a smile on her face. But in the eyes of others, this smile seemed like a devil with a crazy smile. After all, those red eyes really don't look like ordinary people. Powerful country. This time, the Cho kingdom used by Sha Luo was no longer in the form of sword energy, but a general round energy wave gas, with a range so large that it could almost cover an entire giant. Responsibility. Black-red energy waves blasted out, devastating everything along the way, and the speed of this move was almost as fast as Kizaru's laser. Kizaru looked at this overwhelming destructive momentum in horror, not even a trace of. If you hesitate, use sparkling fruit to leave this range as quickly as possible. Several other CPO members also escaped from this area the fastest. A Kongangong. But there was still a CPO who had no time to escape and looked desperately at the surging energy waves and let out a desperate cry. The energy wave also engulfed his entire body, destroying all the buildings on the adjacent islands along the way, and rushed towards the sea. After Weiguo's energy turned into a tiny beam of light and dissipated, nothing was left of the CP. There is no trace of him in this world, and there is no trace of him left. Hey, this is too exaggerated. A member of the CPO was dead just by encountering this energy. Am I facing some young Whitebeard? Kizaru was sweating on his forehead and forced a smile on his lips, but the shock in his eyes could also be seen from his transparent sunglasses. The remaining 3 CPOs looked at each other, not knowing what they saw in each other's eyes, and then nodded in perfect agreement. In the next moment, the 3 people turned around and ran away without looking back, running towards the place where Nami and the others were fighting. Huh, want to escape? Sha Luo snorted coldly, his eyes showing murderous intent. Then he took a deep breath and blew it out at the unprepared backs of the 3 CPOs. At this time, his breakthrough in completely unlocking the ban has reached the highest level in the world. Even if he just waved his hand, he could set off a sharp wind blade as long as he used it with all his strength. And the breath of air he exhaled, under the influence of his full exertion, turned into a terrifying air bomb, aiming directly at the next foothold of the 3 CPOs. There were 2 other observation hockey's accomplished CPOs who forcibly twisted their bodies to avoid their original footing. The remaining one was very unlucky. By the time he noticed it, the gas bomb exhaled by Sha Luo had already arrived in front of him. He was submerged in an instant, leaving only a pineapple body on the spot, with less air coming in and out through the mouth and nose. Sha Luo stepped on the ground hard, 2 big holes appeared in his original position, and he was already next to the CPO. He stepped on it with a big foot, and then he didn't forget to twist it twice. In an instant, the opponent turned into a pile of scraps. HMPH, some rubbish dares to show off in front of me. It seems that the comfortable life given to you by the 5 elders has made you forget to be afraid of the sea. Sha Luo snorted disdainfully. Just when he was about to continue adding, a golden light appeared in front of him. What, Uncle Kizaru, do you still want to fight? You should know that you can't stop me now. Sha Luo lowered his head and looked down at Kizaru. The opponent was 3 meters tall, but Sha Luo was now 10 meters tall, more than 3 meters taller than Whitebeard. So now Kizaru is a dwarf from his perspective. Well, although I already knew that those CPOs were unreliable, I didn't expect that I would abandon me and run away without hesitation, but after all, I am also a Marine Admiral, and I cannot let you go and massacre world government personnel like this. At this time, Kizaru also looked a little helpless. These CPOs did not have any discussion with him at all. The 3 of them just looked at each other and decided to stay here to fight against the completely liberated Sha Luo, but they ran away directly. But Kizaru also roughly knew what the 3 of them were thinking. Allowing himself to stop Sha Luo, they took the opportunity to intercept and kill Sha Lulia, and ran away afterwards. Even if he failed to capture Sha Luo himself, at least he did not let Sha Lulia be taken away by him, so as not to damage the face of celestial dragons later. The main reason why they didn't do this in the first place was because of their self-confidence. He thought that the 5 of him plus Kizaru could easily defeat Sha Luo, but he didn't expect that the other party was so powerful and unreasonable that he had already killed 2 people in a short time, and even one person failed to escape after choosing to escape. Even if you can return to the CPO alive during this mission, you will be punished by the 5 elders, but it is better than losing your life. Ha ha ha, let's see if you can stop me. Sha Luo laughed loudly, ignored Kizaru's obstruction, and rushed forward. Every acceleration left 2 big holes in place. Kizaru did not dare to confront him head-on, so he simply stepped aside and chose to attack from the side. However, his appearance has also undergone some changes, his whole body is radiating light, and he already looks like a golden man. This is the sparkling fruit form that he has cultivated to the ultimate level. If we talk about the stages, he has completely reached the stage of awakening. His full use of sparkling fruit can even permanently change the climate of an area. Flash laser. A thick laser beam shot out from his finger, and its power was completely incomparable to the previous laser. Even Sha Luo felt a sense of crisis and immediately turned his head and covered armament hockey with his fist. One punch hit the laser beam, and a violent explosion occurred at the point of contact between the 2 parties. Sha Luo felt a burning sensation in her fist, which was obviously damage caused by the laser. After the laser dissipated, Sha Luo looked at his fist-wrapping armament hockey. There was a burning smell on it, and the surface was slightly burnt. It seems that I underestimated the strength of Marine Admiral before. Is it possible to compete with the 4 emperors? You guys who are resisting, how come you can't even hurt my body? Now it seems that Uncle Kizaru, you have been hiding your strength. Sha Luo shook her hand, letting the wind blow her fingers to feel cooler. It turned out that he thought that the steel balloon physique that he had successfully cultivated, coupled with the already superb armament hockey, this defense power could already break through human defenses. But a series of injuries made him recognize himself. First of all, Rayleigh's divine avoidance can break through his defense, and Kizaru's sparkling fruit awakening state can also deal a certain amount of damage from the outside. Thinking about it, if Auntie's steel balloon physique is really invincible in this world, she won't have to separate from the other 3-4 emperors. Then the world government will not allow Big Mom to exist, and those 5 old people who have lived for hundreds of years will take action to destroy Big Mom. Well, Uncle, I hate trouble the most. If it's not necessary, I really don't want to do it. After all, it's too wasteful. Kizaru shrugged helplessly. The consumption in the awakened state is extremely high, and even if he has practiced to this level, he cannot use it for a long time. But in order to stop Sha Luo's pursuit, he had to fight. If you think it's too expensive and troublesome, there's no need to do this. Just paddle through the water and let me pass. Sha Luo curled her lips Kaido. Then he unexpectedly accelerated and dodged in the direction of Nami and others, and Kizaru followed instantly. In this way, the 2 of them were always entangled, punching and kicking each other, and they were dragged to the door of the auction by Sha Luo. The current situation here is that Nami and Karina each face a CPO, while Robin and Reiju stop Ghost Spider and Doberman. The remaining Lushu and Huo Shaoshan were stopped by Kaya, Nokigao, Vivi, Lackey and others. Perona had not trained since she boarded the ship late, so she was weak and played as support. However, the horror of negative ghosts has also made these 4 vice admirals suffer a lot. As long as they see a negative ghost, they will maintain a strong armament hockey coverage to avoid losing their minds and entering a negative state. In that situation, combat effectiveness was almost completely lost, and several people suffered losses. Therefore, even if the cost was huge, they had to use armed colors to resist. Being surrounded, they were too busy to attack Perona. Sha Luo, are you okay? When Nami saw Sha Luo appearing during the battle, she immediately shouted happily. But when he saw Sha Luo's body shape clearly, his pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but murmured, so big, I can't even fit it in at this size. Because he was distracted for a moment, the CPO caught the flaw and immediately dodged and punched Nami. Click, the fist struck a green barrier. Can you, this idiot of yours, please clear up your mind? You are in a battle right now. Karina jumped to her side and reminded with a helpless expression. The barrier just now was made by her hand, blocking it at the critical moment. Hey, I will pay attention Karina, but even if you don't take action, I will hide away. You know, I am thunder and lightning. Nami knocked her head and stuck out her tongue to pretend to be cute, and then said in a confident tone. Her radio wave induction is still very strong, and with the speed of lightning, it is not impossible to teleport away. By the way, don't you think Sha Luo is awesome like this? I never knew he could transform into this size. Doesn't that mean? Nami leaned into Karina's ear and said. The latter blushed for a moment and then became serious again. You are such a perverted woman, you are always thinking about these things. Now you are in the battle. After what you want to do, you can find Sha Luo yourself. Now, don't hold me back. Hey, Nami smiled and showed a meaningful expression. Then his eyes became more serious, and he cautiously looked at the people gathered on the opposite side. 2 CPOs. They have also understood the strength of these 2 people. Although it is difficult to defeat them, they can't get any benefits from them. And they are already prepared. Now that Sha Luo is back, it means that he is ready to retreat at any time. Nami, you take Canis and Perona back to the ship first, I will stop them. Sure enough, Sha Luo issued instructions to several people the next moment. The women in the battle also heard it and began to retreat one after another. Don't even think about escaping. Doberman immediately shouted. Seeing that Reiju who was fighting with him had retreated, he rushed forward without hesitation. Pink poison arrow. Reiju spit out a large amount of arrow-shaped venom from his mouth and surrounded the 4 vice-admirals. It's poison. Be careful, Huo Shaoshan immediately reminded him and covered his mouth and nose with one hand. Reiju's pink poison arrows are not only poisonous arrows, but also have a trace of poisonous mist in the surrounding air, and are highly toxic. Perona also released a large number of negative ghosts to surround them. The 4 of them looked at these ghosts with vigilant eyes, they did not want to suffer again. So the other girls successfully gathered together, and then they all wanted to use Kiabu to open up the air together. The 2 CPOs looked at each other and rushed to stop a few people. They now know that the location of Shalulia Palace should be in the sky. They didn't find her when they arrived at the scene just now, so they could only capture a few women first and then use them to trade with Sha Luo. But what I didn't expect was that Nami and Karina would be so troublesome, and they couldn't hurt each other for a while. Even if he wanted to catch other women, he would be stopped, and he would be in a dilemma for a while. Sha Luo also saw their intentions, but Kizaru is not with her at the moment. If he had tried to stop him, he wouldn't have succeeded so easily. Sha Luo's eyes swept across the field, and her eyes flashed when she saw the Vice Admiral foursome. Sha Luo is seen taking a deep breath again, and then exhaling the air bomb with all his strength. The target is the Vice Admiral foursome. Doberman, who was looking at the women gnashing his teeth in the distance, suddenly felt a trembling feeling in his heart for no reason. Turning his head to look, it was Sha Luo who was spitting out a huge air bomb that was speeding towards this side. They had just been beaten for a long time, and their physical and mental strength had been hit hard, and now they were a little sluggish. In addition, Sha Luo's attack was too fast, making it difficult for them to escape. Sha Luo's purpose is also very simple. These people are all vice admirals of naval headquarters. It is also the backbone of Marine. Kizaru could not watch them die, so he must rescue them as soon as possible, and the CPO would not care about their life or death. Just as Sha Luo planned, Kizaru dodged in front of the 4th Vice Admiral, raised his hands and faced the air bomb. The rich elemental power and armament hockey burst out with the raised hands. This is the moment Sha Luo has been waiting for. He instantly burst out with powerful force and stamped on the ground. He chased directly towards the CPO's back. At the same time, the land where he had just exploded with power cracked, and then slowly rose into the sky. Nami also spotted the 2 CPOs who were chasing her, and then she had a wicked smile on her face. The special cannon barrel on the right hand of the battlesuit is concentrated with the power of strong thunder and lightning elements. Thunder cannon. Thick lightning beams shot out. Facing Nami's laser cannon, the 2 CPOs had to avoid the edge temporarily and chose to dodge. It was precisely because of this dodge that Sha Luo got the chance. Sha Luo rarely uses moonwalk of Marine 6 styles because of the floating effect of lion fruit, but this time he directly used moonwalk to speed up. The powerful body directly stepped on the air and made a sonic boom sound of bang bang. Coupled with lion fruit's ability to escape gravity, the 1,000-meter-tall body can fly at extremely fast speeds. In just an instant, Xiaoluo came up behind the two CPOs and grabbed their necks with two big hands like chickens. Then he brought two CPOs to the women's side, and their actual combat abilities began to show signs of improvement. The small piece of empty land also became a foothold for several people. Immediately after exerting force with both hands, the necks of the two CPOs were broken. The neck is a vital part of everyone, and it is relatively soft. If one did not have a monster physique like Xiaoluo, it would be impossible to survive with a neck rope. Xiaoluo casually threw the bodies of the two CPOs down. Doberman and others below had just closed their eyes in despair when they faced the gas bomb. But after 2 seconds, the body felt no pain, and then they opened their eyes, and the back of Admiral Kizaru appeared in their eyes. "Thank you very much for your support, Kizaru Admiral. If it weren't for you, we would have been seriously injured and fell to the ground without fear of dying." The 4 vice admirals saluted Kizaru and thanked him, Wang Lihao, for his life-saving grace. Tread. Then the sound of two falling to the ground was heard, and the bodies of the two CPOs happened to fall in front of several people. These are the 2 world government agents just now. Where's the criminal Golden Lion too? After seeing the 2 corpses in front of him clearly, Doberman made a sound of surprise and then scanned the scene, no longer showing any trace of the villain. Then they raised their heads and saw Xiaoluo flying in the sky. "Golden Lion 2, Kizaru Admiral, what should we do now? Should we continue the pursuit?" Doberman clenched his hands into fists and said through gritted teeth. "No, this mission has failed. Even if I catch up with Golden Lion 2, I can't stop the opponent. Moreover, it is still in the air combat area where the opponent is best. Retreat, go back and inform Mr. Sengoku of what's going on here. We need to re-evaluate Xiaoluo's strength and then set a bounty." The strength of the Golden Lion 2 has now completely reached the level of the 4 emperors. Once the opponent enters the new world and conquers the forces of the old Golden Lion, I am afraid there will be more than just the 4 emperors on the sea. Kizaru's tone was calm, and his eyes under his sunglasses looked at Xiaoluo above the sky. "I am thinking about how the other party gained such strong power in 2 years. Aokiji's evaluation 2 years ago still showed that he could still suppress the opponent if he really wanted to fight to the death, but 2 years later, the opponent's physique has evolved to a terrifying level, and his laser only caused a small scratch. The laser in the awakened state can only cause minor injuries, even serious injuries. Can't do it." He felt like he had been living like a dog for so many years. He had practiced with teacher Zephyr for many years and fought on the sea for many years before he reached his current strength. Have I really regressed in strength? Should I find Vegapunk to create some equipment to enhance my combat power? In this way, Kizaru fell into doubtful thoughts about life, and his body looked like he was in a state of despair. Looking at the 4 vice admirals beside him, they all looked at each other in confusion, but they all shook their heads and didn't know what happened to the other party. The other side, the women who had escaped from the battle were looking at Xiaoluo's body with their mouths open. "Xiaoluo, what's going on with you? Is this also a change caused by your physique?" Nami knocked on Xiaoluo's knee. Now her height could not reach Xiaoluo's waist, but could only reach her knees. "That's right, the current situation is the result of my unlocking all my strength." As he spoke, Xiaoluo's body gradually shrank, slowly returning to its original height of 2 meters, and her muscles became normal. "Tisk tisk, it's really amazing. Your physique of being able to eat and store energy is already powerful enough, but now you can actually transform into the form of a little giant." Nami circled around Xiaoluo several times, touching around with dirty little hands, and marveled. After being together for so long, this was the first time she saw Xiaoluo in this form. Even Kaya had only seen Xiaoluo soar to a height of 2.5 meters. This was also the reason why when he first met Xiaoluo, the opponent obtained the steel balloon physique and couldn't control the surge for a while. "Haha, I heard everything you just said there. What? Do you want to try my full calendar form tonight?" Suddenly, Xiaoluo came close to Nami's ear and whispered. However, in front of everyone who owns observation hockey, it is tantamount to shouting loudly. Although Khalifa has not learned observation hockey, His hearing is very sensitive as an agent, except for Perona, who is a little confused. Everyone else's cheeks turned red with embarrassment, especially little Vivi and Khalifa. Captain Sha Luo, you are harassing me. Could you please restrain yourself? Khalifa pretended to be calm and pushed up the glasses on the tip of her nose. But her shy yet strong and calm look made Sha Luo's eyes light up. This gesture has the feeling of a taboo female secretary, which makes Sha Luo feel a desire to conquer. Especially the black tight-fitting hip-hugging top, coupled with the black mesh top and the black fishnet stockings on her legs, it has a cosplay feel. Vivi directly transforms into a little steam girl. Her head is so low that it is almost buried in the eyes that are not suitable for her age and have abnormal development. As the first crew member to board the ship when entering the Grand Line, she already knew what Sha Luo was thinking, and sooner or later this kind of thing would happen to her. Now that her little sister Kaya has fallen into it, she feels that she will also fall into its clutches soon. Robin, who was uploaded around the same time as Vivi, is much more calm. Ha 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 ha, Captain Sha Luo is really energetic. Robin covered his mouth and chuckled. What? Robin also wants to experience it. It will be a different experience than usual. Sha Luo turned her head and raised a frivolous brow, and said in a seductive tone. No, forget it. But if Captain Sha Luo can let me see the red historical text you mentioned before, I can't reward you. Robin immediately shook his head and refused, but then he stretched out his finger with a smile, tapped his cheek as if thinking, and offered 10 Sub-Zero rewards that he could not refuse. Seriously, then it's a deal. Sure enough, Sha Luo immediately took the bait, a glimmer of light flashed in her eyes, and she agreed without hesitation. Wait, what are you talking about? What kind of experience? What rewards? What red historical Chinese? Can you please stop keeping me in the dark? The riddler is the most annoying. At this time, Perona jumped out, and her little face turned into a little meatball. She saw questions popping up one after another. She didn't understand anything Sha Luo and the others discussed. Living in the thriller bark since she was a child, she is like a pure blank sheet of paper. You won't understand this kind of thing until you fully accept Sha Luo's contamination. Hee. Seeing this, Nami and Karina looked at each other, and then made a soft sound from their mouths in unison. I think you don't understand at all. If you want to understand, come up to my room tonight and I will teach you what we just said. Nami patted Perona on the shoulder with a meaningful expression. After speaking, he winked at Sha Luo, who silently gave a thumbs up. Understand? What do you understand? Why do you have to go to your room at night to teach me? Not in the morning. Perona had some inexplicable feelings, and her intuition was telling her that something was wrong with Nami. Haha, okay Nami, stop teasing Perona, she hasn't grown up yet. Reiju also came over and interrupted what Nami was about to say, and then smoothed Perona's hair. Little Perona, who lacks common sense in this area, was really led away by Nami. See? What? I'm not young anymore, I'm older than you. Perona immediately dodged Reiju's big hand, and then said angrily. What she said is indeed true. In terms of age, she is the third oldest member of the crew, only younger than Robin and Khalifa, and 1 year older than Reiju. Mikita and Lackey are both the same age as Reiju, and the rest are younger. Okay, we have already seen the sailboat. Let's get on it quickly. If you continue, you will be eaten by Sha Luo until all your bones are left. Karina interrupted her desire to compete with others in terms of age and prove that she was no longer a child. Urged a few people to get on the boat quickly, and then started heading to New World. What? Could it be that Captain Sha Luo can still eat people? I don't believe it. Perona could only mutter quietly behind her back. Everyone also laughed and said nothing. Sha Luo would eat her, but not in the way she imagined. Han. Everyone returned to the Longyu smoothly. Michita also greeted them happily, and then began to ask about what happened after she left. After returning to the ship, she was wary that someone would attack from the air and kidnap Shilulia, so she did not return to the ground, but stayed behind on the Longyu. Soon the Longyu kept rising, and only a small dot floating in the air could be seen at the top of the red line, and there was no trace of the ship at all on the sea. What a pity. I also wanted to visit the Fishmen Island. I heard it is a very beautiful island. I have never seen the scene in the sea. Nami looked at the red line below with regret and said in a low tone. The Fishmen Island is indeed a beautiful place. If you want to see it, then if we have a chance later, we can go to the Fishmen Island from New World. It won't be a troublesome thing. What's more, we will also go to the Forest of the Sea in the Fishmen Island later. There is a historical text there. I think Robin is also looking forward to the moment when he sees the historical text. Sha Luo walked to Nami's side, naturally hugged her waist, looked at the red line below with her, and said softly. Looking from above, you can also see a small group of buildings on the red line. Sha Luo estimates that that place is the Holy Land Mariajoy. In the past 800 years, the royal families of 19 countries have survived and multiplied here for a long time. With their efforts, the scale of development here has been very large, no less than the area of a kingdom. There are no other countries on the red line, only the celestial dragons. The celestial dragons would not allow them to live at such an altitude as they were treated as lowly pariahs, and with the sea waves too high, few people could survive in this place. Only celestial dragons with fish tanks on their heads will choose to survive here. Suddenly, an idea popped up in Sha Luo's mind. If I control an island and throw it down from here, I can kill half of the celestial dragons in one blow. How big will the world government explode? But he immediately shook his head and threw this thought out of his mind. Let's not talk about whether it can be thrown successfully. The Knights of God alone can stop the island, not to mention the 5 elders. There are 10 unfathomable I am inside. There is absolutely no way I can implement this idea. Islands are natural disasters for ordinary people. For these powerful people, it is easy to cut off an entire island, Sepha. Even 2 years later, Luo could use the fruit to cut off an entire mountain peak. At that time, he was only at the Shichibukai level and the fruit had not yet awakened. Even Doflamingo couldn't defeat it. What's wrong? Did you encounter something you can't understand? Nami looked at Sha Luo doubtfully. She also saw the way Sha Luo shook his head just now, so she asked with some doubts. No, it's nothing. I just had a fun idea, but it didn't feel like it would work. What's a fun idea? Tell me about it, maybe I can help you. The more Sha Luo said this, the more she aroused Nami's curiosity. Nami approached Sha Luo with a very interested expression, and then asked him about his fun ideas. Seeing this, Sha Luo could only tell what he had just thought. What, you still want to use the island to smash it under the Holy Land Mariajoy? After hearing this, Nami also expressed surprise. Sha Luo killed 2 celestial dragons and captured one, which was enough to shock the world. Now he wants to throw an island down and kill half of the celestial dragons. If this is done, then the relationship between the world government and them will be more than just disagreement. There is no end to it. It is estimated that all marine and world government forces will attack Sha Luo, and they will fight wherever they go. For each attack, at least 3 admiral-level combat forces should be sent to attack. Thinking of this, Nami couldn't help but shake her body. She had seen admirals' combat power twice, and she knew that the current level could not reach that level. At most, it can only be a hindrance. If you want to truly compete with that kind of monster, you need more practice. Nami couldn't help but be aroused and wanted to practice harder so that she could reach a level where she could help Sha Luo. Ha ha ha, didn't I say it? Just think about it. It's still a bit difficult to do it. The background of world government is not as simple as we imagined. Sha Luo laughed and touched the other person's little head. It was funny to see Nami still being scared even after so much. The confidence that becoming stronger has brought her cannot completely change her original timid personality. However, when facing difficulties, Nami can also show a strong and unyielding side, and will not succumb to the enemy even if she encounters an overwhelming situation. Then Sha Luo also started to change the topic and chatted happily with Nami about daily life. Don't discuss what just happened. For a time, the deck was filled with laughter and laughter. Nami also revealed to Sha Luo that little Vivi would privately ask Kaya and Nami what it was like to practice physical skills with Sha Luo. Vivi, who has been exercising on her own, is also very curious about this matter. Every time Kaya and Nami told her that the speed and strength of their cultivation would increase rapidly, they would reveal a trace of yearning and a hint of spring in their eyes. This breaking news even shocked Sha Luo. Then Nami told Sha Luo many things that he didn't know. The girls didn't know that it was originally just a little secret between a few people, but at that time, there must have been a little traitor unknowingly. Sha Luo, what are you talking about? You are laughing so loudly. Just as the two were chatting happily, Karina came over and asked with a puzzled look. Obviously he wanted to participate in the conversation, but Nami turned away with a guilty conscience. I thought to myself that those words just now were not heard by Kagana, otherwise the sisterhood between the two would really become a plastic sisterhood. No, it's nothing. We were talking about when we would take down the Mariajoy below. Then I would build a big official palace for you. Sha Luo responded with a smile, without any flaws between her expression and words. Seeing this, Nami couldn't help but shout in her heart that Emperor Yan would be reincarnated. Is that so? But it won't be easy to take down Majoya. With our current power, it's too early. Kalina had no doubts, but was a little curious about why Nami's expression was weird. With the addition of Karina, the previous topic was put to rest. The three of them just looked at the red line below and chatted happily. Suddenly, Sha Luo felt an inexplicable palpitation in her heart, her laughter suddenly stopped, and her expression froze. He felt like some ferocious beast was watching him. No matter how ferocious a beast is, it will not make itself feel this way. What happened again? Nami looked at him doubtfully. She always felt that Sha Luo was always surprised today. What happened again to make Sha Luo look like this? Nami, don't you feel it? Sha Luo's expression became serious and he looked at her seriously. When Nami saw that Sha Luo's expression was serious and not fake, she immediately became vigilant. Then he releases his own large-scale observation haki to sense the surrounding radio waves. But no matter how she sensed it, she could not see any life form other than her own ship. What do you feel? There is no life around here. Are you sick? Why do you feel so shocked today? Rume looked at Shiasui with some worry. Obviously he thought something happened to Sha Luo, otherwise how could it be like this? No, it's nothing. I just felt wrong. Seeing Nami's reaction, Sha Luo shook his head and hesitated. His eyes were fixed on the holy land of Mariajoy below. If he guessed correctly, there is only one person here who can avoid everyone's perception and do such a thing. I am. Sha Luo slowly read the name in her heart. If it weren't for my observation haki being relatively advanced and very sensitive, it would probably be difficult to notice that someone is watching me. He clearly sensed the doubts, confusion and other emotions contained in this gaze. It wasn't until a minute later that I felt that the owner of his gaze was no longer looking here. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.